Chapter 1163. Stop for now. Hung Yu roared, but who cared about him? Old Zhang only knew one thing, and that was that no one who came in now was good. In any case, he would not kill the wrong person. The human race had no heavenly king. Kill! Zhang Tao bellowed as a book appeared, trapping Qin Yin within it. At that moment, Qin Yin was in a daze. So many heavenly kings. 3. Where did so many heavenly kings come from? He didn't know any of them. Damn it! Qin Yin cursed angrily. His face was pale, but he quickly recovered. Thankfully, he still had a heavenly king on his side. Otherwise, he would even have the thought of dying. Although they didn't know each other and weren't familiar with each other, it didn't matter. He did not recognize the two heavenly kings lying in ambush. They were probably from the human race. Right now, he was extremely glad that there was another heavenly king outside who had also barged in. Otherwise, he would have died today. Just as he was rejoicing, Hung Yu turned around and slapped him. He shouted, "This is a misunderstanding. I am not an enemy of the human race. This person is the one." He struck Qin Yin's chest with his palm and hurriedly said, "Don't attack!" At this moment, Hung Yu was truly frustrated. How could there be any trace of calmness left? At this time, Heavenly King Jin suddenly glanced at him with a slightly strange expression. He suddenly said, "Kid, ignore him. Hurry up, the others are coming. Kill the saint first." Although Zhang Tao didn't understand, killing a heavenly king wasn't an easy task. Since Old Li had said so, he would let it go for now. Therefore, Qin Yin was stunned. He was terrified. 3 heavenly kings. No, it's your grandfather. Old Zhang knew that the one Fong Ping wanted to send in the saint was this guy. He would kill him first. At this moment, the others had already sensed his and Heavenly King subduing's attacks. Streams of aura rose and rushed over. Those people thought that these 2 fellows were going to run away first. So how could they let them leave now? 3 Heavenly King stage powerhouses, and the Heavenly Subduing King was a powerhouse amongst Heavenly Kings. At this time, he also struck out with his palm, directly striking out a 7-petal black lotus. Break 7. Qin Yin's face was ashen. At that moment, he did not even have the thought of tearing open space. A heavenly king who had broken 7. He was only a sage, and a sage who had yet to recover. Of course, he might not die when he encountered Heavenly King Duxian, who had broken through to the 6th level. But now that he had met a heavenly king with a broken 7, he might as well just die. Most importantly, it wasn't even a heavenly king. Ha ha ha! Qin Yin smiled bitterly, feeling that he was especially innocent. What's wrong with me? Didn't I just occupy the Water Force Island? Just because of this, the 3 heavenly kings wanted to kill him? He couldn't figure it out. Is Wu Qi's backer so powerful? Back then, water power was almost stewed by Tsang Mao and Tengu, but not many heavenly kings stood out. In the end, he couldn't even provoke its descendant. Qin Yin felt very innocent. Old Zhang and the others did not care. Their thoughts were the same as Fong Ping's. Killing ancient martial artists would not go wrong. Even if they were spirit emperors and other emperors, killing them would not be a big deal. Which of these ancient martial art practitioners did not harbor enmity towards the human race? Not to mention those emperors. None of those who wanted to become emperors had good intentions towards the human race. Because as far as they were concerned, the human race was the key to proving the Tao. There was no injustice in killing anyone. The trio's attacks were extremely powerful. Even if Hung Yu stopped attacking and quickly dodged, Qin Yin would not be able to stop them. Of course, there was no way to stop it. There was no way to escape. Qin Yin was still a little indignant. At this moment, he also sensed the Heavenly King's aura in the distance. He suddenly roared, "King Fong Ping, slaying Saint Jushuan of the Emperor's bloodline, slaying Saint Tiangui of the Emperor's bloodline strength. Today he will prove his Tao as a true god." As soon as these words came out, the world instantly turned dark. Raging waves. In the distance, King Kuin rapidly tore through the void. At this moment, this heavenly king's expression changed drastically. He had just become a true divinity and killed 2 sages. He wanted to go out and kill Fang Ping. However, before he could arrive, Hong Yu's expression changed. He suddenly tore open the void and left. Elder Zhang looked at Heavenly King Zhen. Heavenly King Zhen shook his head slightly and shouted, "Hong Yu, where are you going? Hong Kuin wants to kill you. I'll help you." On the other side, Hong Yu, who had torn the space apart, could no longer remain calm. He cursed in his heart. "Is this Li Zhen? How could he be so shameless? Why did you mention my name all of a sudden? What bad luck! Why did he have to come in now? Why did he have to meet these people?" He thought that he had come in quietly and no one would notice him. Who knew that there would be people blocking the way outside? Forget it. His identity was mysterious. There were actually not many people who knew him. However, this did not include Heavenly King Zhen. At this moment, King Kuin suddenly stopped rushing in this direction. Instead, he quickly tore open the void and chased after Hong Yu. On the other side, Moon Spirit was stunned for a moment. She screamed shrilly, "Hong Yu? Li Xuanxia, he's Hong Yu?" She did not sense any familiar aura. "It's him." Heavenly King Zhen was eager to see the world in chaos. He shouted, "Hong Kuin wants to kill him. Hong Yu has stolen the earthly sovereign great path and is pretending to be the earthly sovereign. Right now, he's absorbing the earthly sovereign great path. Everyone, what should we do?" "I don't know either." He did not mention killing Hong Yu, lest Moon Spirit went crazy looking for him. However, as soon as he said that, the other heavenly kings suddenly went crazy. What? Earthly sovereign great path? Pretending to be the earthly sovereign? What did he mean? King Qian roared, "Are you serious?" Of course. Otherwise, why would Hong Kuin fall out with him? Quick, chase after him. These 2 brothers are powerhouses who have broken 8. King Qian and the others' expressions changed. What did he mean? The earthly sovereign's avatar was Hong Yu? Impossible. Impossible. Even though they did not understand and were confused, at this moment no one cared anymore. Go find Hong Yu. The heavenly kings all chased after him. Who cared about Fang Ping, Qin Yin, Heavenly King Zhen? Hong Yu absorbed the earthly sovereign great path. Forget it. Chase after him first. Moon Spirit had already broken through the void and chased after him. Heaven's fate did not want to go. He wanted to go to Heavenly King Zhen to watch the show, but Moon Spirit kept urging him to help. Heaven's fate was helpless. He did not want to stay here anymore. He wanted to go out. It was too dangerous here. Everyone was bullying him. However, it was also dangerous outside. King Fang Ping had just proven his Tao and killed a saint. He felt that if he went out, he might be in danger too. There was no safe place in this world. "Father, where are you?" Heaven's fate was sorrowful. Go after him. If he followed Moon Spirit, he would at least have someone to take care of him. Now, even heavenly kings were having a hard time. They ran. On the other side, Li Zhu also tore through the void. He wanted to say something, but stopped, then shook his head helplessly. This was the time to go out together. Break the heaven confinement bell and go out together. Go out and kill Fang Ping. In the end, these fellows were crazy. Li Zhen's words made these people go crazy. No one said anything and left. Li Zhu sighed. Heavens could not be disobeyed. Who knew that Hong Yu would come in today? He wanted to curse. Why did Hong Yu come in now? Why did he come in? He came in, but why did he make such a big commotion? Was he afraid that others would not know he came in? Hong Yu, who was being chased, was even more depressed than him. He did not want to. He really did not want to make such a big commotion. Otherwise, he would not have come in when Song Mao let him in. He came in to see his old friend, to sneak a peek. His aura had changed. He could not even tell who he was. How could he have known that Li Zhen was so observant and recognized him so quickly? Hong Yu felt like killing himself. The human race, there really wasn't a single good person in the human race. That was not right. Li Zhen had stayed with the humans for so many years. He was probably the one who had led the humans to this state. Gone. They were all gone. Qin Yun was stunned. What happened? Go out and kill Fang Ping. A true god killing a saint. How big of a deal is this? Don't you feel threatened? Why are all of you chasing after Hong Yu? Most importantly, how do you know that this fellow is speaking the truth? At this moment, Zhang Tao and Heavenly King Zhen's attacks had arrived. Zhang Tao sneered and said disdainfully, "You think you are worthy of causing trouble? When I was playing this trick, you were not even revived yet." He wanted to say that he was not born yet, but on second thought he was an antique. He could not use that. Qin Yan's plan to cause trouble was easily resolved by Heavenly King Zhen. Old Zhang rejoiced. That was Hong Yu? It's all thanks to him. What a coincidence. If not for Hong Yu acting as a shield, Qin Yan's words might have caused the Heavenly Kings to go berserk. They might have forcefully broken the heaven-confining bell and escaped. Now the danger was gone. The Heavenly Kings had escaped. Old Zhang thanked Hong Yu. Heavenly King Zhen nodded slightly. Hong Yu had come at the right time. This fellow was practically a free target. Now, things were going to get interesting. As the two of them chatted, a 7-petal lotus and a 6-petal lotus brushed past Qin Yin. Qin Yin did not even have a chance to escape. In a daze and despair, he watched helplessly as the lotus engulfed him. His golden body was instantly destroyed and his mentality disappeared. Not only that, even the source world was cut off. Silently and without a sound, Qin Yin disappeared completely. After disappearing for a while, there was a fluctuation between heaven and earth. A great Tao appeared again. It collapsed instantly. Today, the third sage died even faster than the last. Jiuxuan's death was considered fast, but Qin Yun perished even faster. He was too unlucky. 2 powerhouses attacked him, but no one could stop them. How could he reason with them? At this moment, old Zhang and Heavenly King Zhen looked at each other. Without a word, they quickly grabbed Tianmu and left. If they did not leave now, what if these fellows came back? At the same time, in a dark place, Warlord looked at Li Zhen. After a while, he said, "We were hallucinating, right?" Li Zhen nodded solemnly. "Yes, you were right. We were hallucinating. Someone deliberately set Fang Ping up. Despicable. Kill 2 saints? Who would believe that? Who was so black-hearted to set Fang Ping up like that?" As he spoke, Li Zhen thought for a while and said, "This person is talking nonsense, but Patriarch Jiang, I've decided to go out alone to hunt venerable emperors. Don't come with me." Warlord glanced at him. "You said you didn't believe it. Why are you so agitated? Are you going out alone? Are you afraid that you'll embarrass yourself if you go out?" "I don't want to go with you either." Warlord coughed softly and said, "All right, then we'll go our separate ways. You go do your thing. I want to practice too. After all, Fang Ping has become a paragon. We can't improve too slowly, right?" They only admitted that Fang Ping was a paragon. They would never admit that he had killed a saint. 2. Both of them cursed in their hearts. The saints in the outside world were too useless. But useless was good too. Li Zhen said as he walked, "We should be able to kill a saint when we go out. A group of newly awakened saints is definitely not as strong as an emperor." "That's right. Let's go out and kill one with 1 punch. It's not difficult." Warlord agreed. "You're right." Both of them were already walking further and further away. Li Zhen and Warlord turned around at the same time and suddenly laughed. Li Zhen shook his head and said, "King, I now understand why Zhang Tao is a king, but I am not. He's stronger than me. He's also better at judging people. Li Changsheng, whom I'm optimistic about, if it weren't for Fang Ping, he might not even be a rank 8 now. Patriarch Jiang, I'm leaving. I won't kill a saint this time, but I still have to kill an emperor. Otherwise, I'll be too ashamed to go back. Warlord said sheepishly, Go, go! I'll be too ashamed. One became a heavenly king, the other killed a saint. Even you, the guy who wore diapers in front of me when I was young, achieved emperor earlier than me. I'll go find old Shin and the rest. He left too. Go find Shen Hao Ian and the rest first. Tell them I'm an emperor and you're the paragons. Isn't it embarrassing? Everyone revived together and cultivated together. How could you be the paragons? It was too embarrassing. Both of them left. This time, they left with the thought of not returning until they killed an emperor. They were happy that Fong Ping was strong, but he was too strong. That sense of loss still filled everyone's mind. They had watched helplessly as Fong Ping surpassed them step by step. Old Zhang was slightly better. He had also become a heavenly king. Fong Ping might not be able to surpass him in a short period of time, but they could not. At this moment, these human powerhouses were excited and filled with infinite desire. I want to become stronger too. The sky turned dark. Pitch black. The blood rain was still pouring. Fong Ping looked at the sky and murmured, That's strange. Qin Yun died when he entered? Who did such a vicious thing? The saints killed him, just like that. Could it be King Kun? Everyone took a step back. At this moment, everyone's hearts were cold. Qin Yun was dead. It did not take more than 10 seconds. This saint powerhouse died when he entered the fake, heavenly grave. The few saints who were prepared to barge in earlier were now terrified. Fortunately, someone had barged in. They dared not continue to enter. Otherwise, they might follow in Qin Yun's footsteps. At this moment, they looked at Fong Ping with vigilance and fear. If this was not arranged by Fong Ping, they would have killed themselves. This guy was so ruthless, so vicious. He was so calculative at such a young age. Where did he learn it from? It was already beyond imagination that he could achieve Tao. All these years, did he still have time to think about those conspiracies? Fong Ping said innocently, Everyone, it's really a misunderstanding. I didn't expect it to be like this. I know, it must be that guy who came later who did it. Fong Ping understood. It's him. Hong Yu. The earthly emperor's bloodline is really ruthless. When he mentioned Hong Yu, a few people in the crowd changed their expressions. At this moment, Kai Dai and the rest suddenly distanced themselves from Sky Sword and the rest. Was it Hong Yu? They did not sense a familiar aura, but the one who came later was obviously a heavenly king powerhouse. This matched what Fong Ping had said earlier. Hong Yu was hiding in the dark. Moreover, he entered with Qin Yun. In an instant, Qin Yun died. While they suspected Fong Ping, they could not help but think that it could also be Hong Yu who did it. After all, Hong Yu was the heavenly king who was most likely to do it. He was following behind. At this moment, even Sky Sword and the rest were uncertain. Did Hong Yu do it? Did they wrongly accuse Fong Ping? As for Fong Ping, he looked innocent and did not feel guilty at all. Speaking of which, Hong Yu had helped him before. However, Fong Ping always felt that this guy was scheming. When Qin Fengqing was with him, he felt that Hong Yu was not that pure. It was fine now. He could blame it on Hong Yu. These people did not know the inside story anyway. Fong Ping sighed. 3 saints have died today. Everyone, do you still want to continue? If we continue to die like this, 3 will die a day. Even if 100 or so saints are all revived, it will only be a month's worth. Tens of thousands of years of accumulation. It's not good to finish fighting in a month, right? Everyone cursed in their hearts. Did he have the cheek to say this? Fong Ping stretched and smiled. If you're not going to fight, then let's disperse. Honestly, why are we fighting to the death now? Will killing me bring you any benefits? There's actually no benefit to me killing you. There's not much use. The Emperor Avenue has not appeared, and the heavenly kings are still holding back. We're fighting hard now. If we all die in the end, who will benefit? Fong Ping advised earnestly, Everyone, it's not easy to live until now. Don't fight and kill all the time. You haven't even recovered your peak combat strength. If you die now, won't it be a loss? Look, 3 died at once. They're still half-baked saints. Their strength hasn't even reached their peak. They died especially fast, Fang Ping sighed. Forget it, forget it. Let's disperse. Sky Sword, the rest of you, go and recover. Don't think too much. Also, after Wind Cloud Saint and I disperse, don't think about killing us one by one. It's obviously hopeless. You're not me. You can hide your aura. You can't kill a saint if you attack alone. When you attack together, you can't hide your aura. You can use a saint order, but if you're on guard, you can still detect it. I'm saying all this to tell you not to waste time. Everyone, give each other some time. I'll go and prove my Tao as an emperor, and you guys go and recover your strength. Right now, you fight each other. It's not necessary. Fang Ping was like a parent instructing everyone, smiling. Really, don't waste time. Let's wait for those heavenly kings to come out before we talk, okay? Those who should go into closed-door cultivation, go do it. I won't ambush and assassinate you. Everyone will be fine. Seeing that their faces were dark and they did not speak, Fang Ping smiled. I'm also giving you a chance. Think about it. There are still people who have not recovered. Right now, the other emperor's bloodlines are weak. Is this appropriate? If you kill them, the latecomers will recover and take advantage of it. Will you be happy? If you want to fight, wait until everyone is alive, then fight. Fang Ping lectured Sky Sword and the others as if he was lecturing his son. Don't mess around. Among all the forces, you guys are the most complicated. You guys follow Earthly Sovereign. Do you know what's going on with Earthly Sovereign? Both of their sons have fallen out. Maybe there's an inside story. In the end, you guys will realize that we're actually in the same group. Won't you feel guilty if you die? Sky Sword gave him a deep look. Without another word, he broke through the air and left. When the others saw this, they did not say anything and left one after another. They could not fight anymore. They also felt aggrieved in today's battle, and it was also very inexplicable. First, the God creation envoys, 3 avatars appeared. Then a saint appeared in the human world, Zhang Hao. Then Fang Ping proved his Tao. Then Tiangui was killed by him. In short, they also felt that it was really not necessary to continue fighting today. They left. Kai Dai and the others looked at each other. Without saying a word, they broke through the air and left the place. 3 saints died in a day. They were also terrified. Fang Ping was in danger. Sky Sword's side was also in danger. At this moment, they needed help. They had to wait for the powerhouses of each bloodline to recover. Now they had to lie low and recover their strength. They could not fight anymore. Seeing this, Taoist Feng Yun also smiled and said, "Then this old man will leave first." As he said that, he suddenly said, "Where's Di Xing?" Where's Di Xing? Deep under the sea. Di Xing and Taoist Ming Ting were currently exhausted from fighting with the emperor-level monster beast. 2 people and 1 monster looked at each other for a long time. You look at me, I look at you. After an unknown period of time, Ming Ting could not take it anymore and said, "Do you still want to fight? They seem to have forgotten about us. A few saints have died. Do you still want to continue? Disperse." Di Xing said, a little sad, "The 3 of us emperor levels were fighting in the depths of the sea. In the end, those guys had all run away. What was there to fight for?" Fang Ping had proven his Tao, yet he did not kill this monster beast. It was as if he had forgotten about them. He was about to explode with anger. The whale monster beast also said, "You and I are only following orders. There's no need to continue fighting. If we don't leave now, no matter which side wins, they will remember us. One of us will fall. Both of you, 2 people and 1 monster, looked at each other again. Without further ado, they left quickly. Even they were dazzled by today's battle. They thought that Fang Ping was extremely dangerous. Who knew? In the end, Fong Ping had killed a saint. Today, 3 saints had died. If they continued fighting, their deaths would not be worth it. Others would talk about the saints' deaths. They might not even be on the death list. If no one cared about the Emperor level's death, they would really die a wrong death. Heaven and earth were quiet, except for the blood rain that continued. With the death of 3 sages, it was clear that this rain of blood would not end so quickly. A true god died. Li Chongqing killed him. No emperor level died. On the contrary, the strongest saint had the most deaths today. This was also beyond everyone's expectations. At this moment, Fong Ping, who had bid farewell to Yue Wei and Feng Yin, calmly flew toward the earth's passageway. He looked indifferent. In reality, Fong Ping was so tired that he wanted to sleep. A total of 10 saints had attacked them. If he had not succeeded in proving his Tao, today might have been humanity's annihilation day. How could it be so easy? He was too tired. He was so tired that he wanted to sleep right now. He was tired. The cat was tired too. Li Chongqing and Wu Quishan were also very tired. None of them could relax. At the passageway entrance, Jiang Hao glanced at Fong Ping. He did not say anything. After watching for a while, he left on his own. Today's battle was beyond everyone's expectations. He didn't expect that things would end up like this. The humans and the catacombs did not lose much. The unlucky ones were Emperor Nan and Emperor Huang. Who would have thought that a saint had fallen? Moreover, Hong Yu had entered the fake sky grave. At this moment, Jiang Hao also needed to think about the possible changes that might occur. Fong Ping did not care about him. At this moment, Fong Ping looked at the passageway, a smile on his face. He was back. He was back once again. Every time he left Earth, he did not know if he could return. Just like today, if Feng Yin and the rest had attacked, would he still be able to return alive? Gambling on luck. I've gambled for 3 years. I hope that next time I can go to war with full confidence and return with full confidence. Fong Ping murmured. He finally had the ability to be independent. Chapter 1164. He won consecutive battles. When Fong Ping returned, the whole world was brightly lit. Everyone was waiting for King Fong Ping to return victorious again. In less than 2 months, the humans had won every battle, annihilating many hostile forces. At this moment, everyone knew the reason for the change in the sky. When powerhouses fell, there would definitely be a change in the sky. On Earth, a rain of blood fell. Obviously, powerhouses had fallen. Everyone was sure that it was the enemy. It could only be the enemy. There were too few human martial artists above the desperate realm. If it was a human, the sky would collapse. Everyone was waiting for the news of victory. They were waiting for the King Ping to return and announce to the world that they had won again. As Fong Ping said, if he did not fall, the humans would not fall. If he fell, most of the people's hearts would disperse. Outside the Magic City catacombs, Skywood's incarnation of an old man came through the flight step. He looked at Fong Ping with a helpless expression and said softly, I was entangled by a saint. I can't enter the catacombs to help. Fong Ping nodded slightly and smiled. It's enough for Elder Mu to protect Earth. Skywood was entangled by a catacombs temple master. Both sides confronted each other for a long time. Only when a saint had fallen did that person leave. On this point, Fong Ping did not think it was inappropriate. Without Skywood's deterrence, something big might happen. Skywood staying on Earth saved him a lot of trouble and worries. Skywood saw that he did not say anything and breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, it was also extremely shocked. 3 saints had died. Obviously, it was not the humans. Fong Ping was actually only a rank 9. After proving his Tao this time, he actually possessed the combat strength of a saint. It was too shocking. Previously, it chose to rely on the humans for this reason. Skywood said no more. Fong Ping looked around. The sky was already dark, but Magic City was still as bright as day. Everyone was waiting. Fong Ping smiled. This was almost becoming a routine. If he did not say a few words today, he was afraid that countless people would not be able to sleep. "We won." 2 short words swept across the place again. This was more beautiful than anything else. Golden age. Boiling. Countless people cheered. Countless people walked out of their homes. It was like a festival, dancing in joy. The longevity swordsman killed the top demons in the Forbidden Sea and proved his Tao. General of 100 battles, Tian Mu, has made a breakthrough in the midst of battle and has proven his Tao to the peak. He has battled the powerhouses of the catacombs and entered the martial king realm. Everyone, as support, we will definitely return victorious. Fang Ping's voice reverberated in all directions. The cheers grew louder and louder. Another 2 humans had reached the peak of Tao validation. In just a short period of time, 3 powerhouses had proven their Taos, which also encouraged everyone. Fang Ping paused for a moment. Then he said with a smile, "This time I've also made some achievements. I've killed 2 ancient saints, King Wu and Heavenly King Jin. Assist us in killing an ancient saint." Invincible. Invincible. Only the word invincible resounded throughout the world. A martial king had proven his Tao to become a heavenly king, and a human king had slain 2 ancient great sages. The peak strength of the human race could finally be brought out to the public. The stronger Fang Ping and the others were, the stronger humans were, the safer they were. Now, everyone knew a lot more. They knew about the situation in the catacombs, the situation in the other grotto heavens and grandmasters. In other places, mortals were like ants. The weak were all ants. The life and death of the strong were in their hands, and the weak did not dare to disobey. Only the human race. Even if they were just ordinary people, they also enjoyed everything that ordinary people could not enjoy. Perhaps it was hard, perhaps it was tiring, but at least they would not fall asleep and have their souls return to hell. There would be no harm if there was no comparison. In the past, some people complained that the treatment of martial artists was too high. Now no one complained. That was what they deserved. Not only did they deserve it, but they should be given better and higher. Martial artists were the most adorable people in this era. They fought everywhere, pulled the battlefront to the foreign territory, and did not let the enemy take a step into the line of defense. The amount of blood they had sacrificed was unimaginable to ordinary people. Magic City. The people were cheering, seething, and jumping for joy. The lights were flashing, and it was colorful. Fireworks were rising. This was a celebration. Fang Ping floated in the air quietly. Around him, Wu Quishan and the others had already started to take over with the martial artists on Magic City's side, settling down after the war. No one talked to Fang Ping, but no one would ignore him either. One by one, the martial artists looked at Fang Ping, their eyes full of worship. The human king had fought everywhere and won every battle. Great victories came one after another. For the past 100 years, the martial artist's humiliation had been returned by the human king one by one. No one could oppress the human race anymore. In the past, the foreign territory was in turmoil. Now it was the human race who killed all the way to the restricted area, forcing the foreign territory powerhouses to escape into the inner territory, not daring to invade again. In the past 3 years, the human race's situation was getting better and better. When Fang Ping was cultivating, it coincided with the catacombs' turmoil. The human race was in decline, the Tianan catacombs were broken, and the Magic City catacombs were in chaos. At that time, most of the martial arts powerhouses were very pessimistic. Even if they were not afraid of war, they felt that the human race was going to be defeated and the race would be destroyed. For this reason, the government even proposed a seed conservation plan, ready to let a group of civilization's seeds wander the starry sky at any time. Today, however, no one mentioned it again. 3 years later, even if the situation was still urgent, the human race had killed countless strong enemies. At this moment, everyone was full of confidence. Even if the human race was defeated, the other parties would not have a good time either. All of this was related to the young man in front of them. Fang Ping, who was floating in the air, looked calm, but he could not hide the exhaustion deep in his eyes. The more the human race expected of him, the more pressure he felt. With the recovery of the ancient powerhouses, Fang Ping was already a little powerless. The ultimate qualitative change would only happen once. He had the combat strength of a saint, but it was too difficult to advance further. How would he deal with those heavenly kings, or even the revived emperors? The human race is still not strong enough, Fang Ping muttered in his heart. He knew that the human race was not strong enough now. It was only the individual who was strong. In terms of overall strength, they were still lagging behind a lot. Desperate realm, 2 were born this time. It seemed like a lot, but Fang Ping still felt that it was too little. The core strength of emperor level was also seriously lacking. Fang Ping, who was thinking about this, suddenly felt that he seemed to have forgotten something. The next moment, Fang Ping suddenly looked at the cat. On the other side, the cat was exhausted, dozing off, nodding its fat head as if it wanted to sleep. At this moment, Fang Ping looked at it. The cat sensed it, lifting its head, looking at Fang Ping innocently. What was it again? The man and the cat looked at each other. After a while, Fang Ping's face twisted. Big cat, did you forget something? The cat looked at him blankly, nodding quickly. I did forget something. Did the old man who took my sky destroyer sword bring back the fish he killed? Fang Ping's expression was ferocious. Think again. The cat looked innocent. What else was there? Where's Fang Yuan? Fang Ping gritted his teeth. Where did you put Fang Yuan? At this moment, the world was quiet. The cat blinked. Yes, where was little chubby face? Little chubby face. Did he eat him when he was about to run? He seemed to have eaten him. The cat remembered. The next moment, the cat opened its mouth wide and spat. After a while, Fang Yuan appeared on the spot with an innocent look on her face. When she saw Fang Ping, she immediately felt wronged. She said with a long face, Brother, big cat is so disgusting. It ate me. It's fine if it ate me, but it also stuffed me into a garbage dump. There's garbage everywhere. The cat's face was full of indignation. It muttered, Who said it was a garbage dump? It's a storage cabinet, okay? It's filled with delicious food. Fang Yuan said in grief and indignation, Storage cabinet? There's fish everywhere. They're all barbecued. It's so smelly. Seeing that she was fine, Fang Ping did not care about her complaints. He looked at the cat and said with some surprise, Where did you put him? He was also a powerhouse. He could also swallow people and trap them in his body. However, according to Fang Yuan, the cat seemed to have stuffed her into the storage space. Could a storage space store living people? The cat muttered. He stuffed her into his stomach. You can store living people in your storage space? That's not a storage space, the cat said innocently. That's my warehouse. It's used to store food. Let's not talk about that. How can you store living people? Oh, the cat said casually. Maybe it has something to do with my cat world. My warehouse is actually connected to my cat world. Maybe I sprinkled some origin soil in, and the warehouse can store living people. A little origin soil? Fang Ping looked at Fang Yuan. How big is that place? Fang Yuan said hurriedly, as big as a football field. It's all food, piled up in a mess. Brother, don't be fooled by Big Cat's clean appearance. He's actually very messy. A lot of food has been unsealed, but he just threw it on the ground. There's also a lot of cooked food, but he threw it back after eating half of it. The cat muttered, It doesn't taste good. If it doesn't taste good, he just threw it back. If there's no more food in the future, he can eat it again. Fang Ping laughed. You really know how to save food. The key was, where did this cat get so much origin soil from? A warehouse the size of a football field. It was too big. Fang Ping himself had used origin soil and conjured a piece of real land in the source world. It was very, very small, probably about the size of a table. This was already considered quite a lot. How could the cat be so big? Thinking of this, Fong Ping suddenly said, "Your cat world also has origin soil." The cat said matter-of-factly yes. The cat world is paved with origin soil. Fong Ping was speechless. Not far away, Tian Mu's old face twitched. He felt that it was time for him to leave. If he stayed any longer, his heart would explode. "Then why don't you store food in the cat world?" The cat looked at him like he was an idiot. "Then why don't you sleep in the supermarket? A place to eat is a place to eat, and a place to sleep is a place to sleep. If it smells bad, how can I stay in the cat world?" Fong Ping was speechless. Fortunately, Fong Yuan was fine. Fong Ping could not be bothered to say anything more. He waved his hand and said, "You guys go home first." He still had something to do and had to go out. The cat did not care. After the fight, he was tired and wanted to go back to sleep. Star Town. Small world. The God Creation Envoy was still reading. In front, the void fluctuated. The God Creation Envoy did not even raise his head and said lightly, "I told you not to betray me, but you still betrayed me. Who asked you to tell the cat that I'm back?" Fong Ping smiled and said, "I didn't say it. Someone else recognized me." Senior God Creation Envoy is indeed remarkable. At that time, his avatar had already dispersed, but he still knew what happened later. The God Creation Envoy yawned and said indifferently, "Who said that there can only be 3 avatars? I'll leave one to watch the show." "Why can't I?" "As long as Senior is happy." Fong Ping looked at him and bowed slightly. "Thank you for your help this time, Senior. If it weren't for the help of Senior's avatar, I'm afraid Fong Ping would have completely fallen this time." Fong Ping actually did not expect that the other party would have so many saints. He thought that 4 or 5 would be good enough, but in the end there were 10. If not for the power of the God Crafting Envoy, the 3 clones would have entangled the 3 saints. He would have been finished from the start. "It's just a transaction," the God Creation Envoy said indifferently. "When you obtain the 9 Emperor seal in the future, don't forget what you promised this old man." "Of course not." Fong Ping smiled. "Senior, I heard that you're a grandmaster in weaponsmithing." "Wrong." The God Forging Envoy did not even raise his head as he snorted. "Grandmaster? A grandmaster isn't even fit to carry my shoes. This old man is a God-ranked blacksmith." Obviously, he felt that Fong Ping had underestimated him. Fong Ping laughed dryly. After thinking for a while, he said, "Senior, I have something to ask you. I wonder. I don't know." The God Creation Envoy was not interested in paying attention to him. Seeing this, Fong Ping thought for a while and said, "Then forget it. The Ash Cat said that it misses Senior. I'll ask the Ash Cat to visit Senior more often in the future." "Stop." The God Creation Envoy raised his head. The old man's expression was ugly, although he felt that the Ash Cat was rather cute. But this cat sometimes gave people headaches. It was fine in the past, but now this cat had lost everything. If he were to find himself, he would have to wait for his head to explode. The pot was gone, the fishing rod was broken, the divine mirror was broken, the heaven confining bell was gone, the sky bell was gone, the current Ash Cat was poor and white. If it saw him, it would not leave. "If you dare to let the Ash Cat come here, this old man will kill you right now." Fong Ping was full of smiles. Speak properly. Finally, there was something to check and balance this old man. In space, Fong Ping and the God Creation Envoy sat opposite each other. Fong Ping said, "What's the situation with the earthly emperor's bloodline?" The God Creation Envoy drank his tea, crossed his legs, and said lazily, "How would this old man know? I've been trapped for 8,000 years. Senior, the Ash Cat really misses Senior." The God Creation Envoy's expression was unfriendly. He snorted and pondered for a moment before saying, "This old man doesn't know the specifics. I only know that 8,000 years ago, When the divine sect first appeared, it was established by the two sons of the earthly emperor. After that, there seemed to be internal strife, and Hongyu brought some people out to be independent. After that, the earthly emperor's avatar appeared. At that time, this old man did not notice anything wrong, but later, the God creation envoy hesitated for a moment before saying, Hong Kuan did not recognize the earthly emperor's avatar. No one in the outside world knew that Hong Kuan was still alive at that time, but Li Xuanxie still knew. This was his father. How could a son not recognize the emperor as his father? At that time there were some doubts, but the emperor's prestige was too strong, and no one dared to mention it. Moreover, most people did not know the situation. Fang Ping thought for a moment and interrupted. It's not a problem if King Kuan doesn't approve of it. Actually, I'm more curious. Why didn't Moon's spirit have any contact with the earthly emperor god dynasty at that time, and didn't look for her father-in-law, Moon's spirit? The god creation envoy thought for a moment and said, maybe she knows something. You have to know that when the heavenly realm was shattered, the northern emperor blade came through the void and found Moon's spirit. The earthly emperor's sword was given to her by Hongyu, and this was the earthly emperor's sword. If the earthly emperor really returned, the earthly emperor's sword should have reacted. Maybe it was because of the earthly emperor's sword that Moon's spirit felt that there was a problem. Other than Moon's spirit herself, I'm afraid no one else knows. After saying that, the God creation envoy said impatiently, Do you want to speak, or should I? Continue listening. Don't interrupt if you have nothing to say. The earthly emperor's avatar appeared and established the earthly emperor god dynasty. The emperor's prestige was still there, and no one in the three realms dared to resist. This situation lasted for thousands of years, but in the later stages, some problems appeared. The God creation envoy recalled for a moment. He had never gone out in the past few years, and many things were told to him by the heavenly king. At this moment, the old man recalled for a while and said slowly, In the years since the earthly emperor's avatar appeared, Hongyu seemed to have completely disappeared. At first, those who knew didn't think too much about it, but later on they realized that the divine sect and the earthly emperor god dynasty seemed to be fighting openly and secretly. This time there was a big problem. No matter how much the earthly emperor doted on his son, he wouldn't be unable to control his son. Where did Hong Kuan get the courage to go against the earthly emperor? The two sides had even started a war in the dark. Of course, no one knew about it. Later on, the divine sect took the initiative to expose the secret. The earthly emperor was fake, not the earthly emperor. This time, the three realms was a little chaotic. Of course, at first, no one dared to believe it. The earthly emperor's flaw was also related to Hong Kuan. He had secretly made a move, and in fact, a short battle had broken out in the divine court of the earthly emperor god dynasty. His target was the earthly emperor's avatar. At this time, some of the powerhouses in the three realms realized that something was wrong. Tengu and the others all sensed that something was wrong. Then, there was the matter of Tengu provoking the earthly emperor. This time it was also a fuse. Everyone saw the earthly emperor's weakness, and it might be fake, deceiving the three realms for 3,000 years. When Fang Ping heard this, he said in disbelief, In that case, the avatar might be fake too. Is it Hongyu in disguise? That's possible. Are the powerhouses of the three realms fools? Can't you see that? The God creation envoy said unhappily, Nonsense. Do you dare to investigate the emperor? He is full of the emperor's aura. Who would eat a bear's heart and leopard's guts to investigate the emperor unscrupulously? Of course, they can hide it from everyone. Then the avatar, or the demon emperor, is Hongyu. It's hard to say, the God creation envoy muttered. It might not be a fake avatar. It might be the real earthly emperor's projection. It's just that it might be controlled by Hongyu. Then why did he establish the demon emperor god dynasty? Idiot! The God creation envoy said disdainfully, Is it hard to understand the emperor gathering Tao? If you can become the human king, he can become the king of the three realms. The three realms respect this person. Of course, it's also difficult. After all, he is acting as the earthly emperor. If he uses his own identity, Hangyu's identity, to become the king of the three realms, he might really succeed. The God creation envoy thought for a moment, then added, when the earthly emperor God dynasty was still around, it was actually very popular. Hangyu is also a genius. Those 3,000 years should be the most peaceful period in the past 8,000 years. If this continues, in another few thousand years, Hangyu will gradually replace the earthly emperor's position. In the end, he will make the earthly emperor abdicate, and he might really succeed. Unfortunately, he was exposed by Hongkuan later on, and the earthly emperor God dynasty was besieged by all sides. After saying that, the God creation envoy said indifferently, that time it was not like what you heard. Only the overseas immortal islands and the heavens beyond heaven took action. If that was the case, the earthly emperor God dynasty could easily annihilate these guys. That time, there were many people who took action. Li Xuanxie, Hongkuan, the Sea Guardian, the Palm Seal Envoy, a few heavenly kings. They all secretly took action and suppressed the earthly emperor God dynasty, which led to their defeat. Fang Ping nodded. He could actually see some of it. The earthly emperor God dynasty was very powerful. The Hall Masters were all saint-rank powerhouses, and the two kings were only Hall Masters back then. Now, they were already close to becoming heavenly kings. If only the emperor-rank powerhouses had taken action. How could they have caused such a huge divine court to collapse? Hangyu died later on? Fang Ping asked again. The God creation envoy nodded and said he should be dead. That's why we said that he might be the earthly emperor's avatar. Because that time, the earthly emperor's avatar was killed. Of course, at that time, I wasn't sure if the earthly emperor's avatar was Hangyu, but the God creation envoy recalled for a while before saying, but that day, two heavenly king powerhouses fell, and it doesn't match. King Li was killed by the avatar back then, and the others also killed the earthly emperor's avatar. Logically speaking, the death of the avatar should not have any abnormalities. No one had ever seen a change when the avatar died. Of course, the emperor might be special. In addition, when the heavenly king died in battle, there was a huge commotion. The death of the avatar also covered up some abnormalities. But this old man and Li Xuanxie felt that something was wrong. That was clearly the commotion caused by the fall of the two heavenly kings. Fang Ping's eyes moved slightly. That's why Hangyu was killed that time. And now, Hangyu has been resurrected. Hangyu, if you say that the guy who barged in later, something might be wrong. It might be Hangyu, but it might not be. The God creation envoy continued, but he should have been taking the initiative to prepare for his resurrection. The God creation envoy looked at Fang Ping and said, Tianji and Tianming, these two fellows might be his backup. Back then, these two fellows left the Earth Emperor Divine Court as soon as the Avatar fell. These two fellows were saints at that time, but they did not fight much and quickly left with their people. After that, the war between the North and the South broke out, and a large number of powerhouses died. All of this might be to prepare for Hangyu's resurrection. The God creation envoy knew a lot, and most of it was told to him by heavenly King Zhen. At this moment, Fang Ping also connected many things. First, the heavenly king standing behind the sky beyond heaven should be King Li, one of the 8 kings. In the end, he died in battle that time. Second, the earthly emperor's avatar was most likely Hangyu in disguise. He wanted to become the king of the 3 realms and become an emperor. He almost succeeded. Third, the divine sect was not the only one who caused trouble in the dark during the war between the North and the South. The 2 kings were also the initiators. Fourth, the 2 kings might know Hangyu's identity. Otherwise, they would not be on bad terms with King Kuan. When they met King Kuan previously, they were quite cold. Fang Ping still did not know that when the 2 kings had just revived, they had mentioned rebuilding the heavenly court. If he knew, he might have some ideas. The 2 kings knew that there were heavenly kings in the 3 realms. But at that time they were full of confidence to rebuild the heavenly court. Who gave them the confidence? Was it because they could fight a heavenly king together? Or they knew that someone was coming back? This time was the resurrection of Sky Sword and the others also because of Hongyu? But if that was the case, why did Hongyu not attack him? If he attacked personally with the combat strength of a heavenly king, Fang Ping would not be a match for him no matter what. After knowing a lot of things and solving a series of mysteries, Fang Ping had a lot more doubts. Did Hongyu and Hongkuan fall out because of this? Fang Ping fell into deep thought. He had to pay attention to the bloodline of the earthly emperor. This bloodline was too powerful. The more he knew, the easier it would be to face it in the future. At this moment, the God Creation Envoy suddenly said, "That guy, the earthly emperor, maybe he really is not dead. Of course, maybe the one who really died is this guy." The God Creation Envoy muttered, "He knows a lot of things and is involved in too many things. In my opinion, most of the 9 emperors are either not dead or they are almost dead. If they are dead, the earthly emperor might be among them." Fang Ping's expression changed slightly. This news was quite important. If that was the case, the inside story of the Heavenly Realm battleback then would be even more complicated. The earthly emperor, who had been jumping the most obviously, might be the only emperor to die. This news made countless thoughts rise in Fang Ping's mind. The Heavenly Realm battle was the most confusing battle in tens of thousands of years. The 9 emperors and 4 emperors were all gone. It could be said that that battle had completely changed the entire 3 realms. And now, Fang Ping had also begun to gradually come into contact with this battle, with the 9 emperors and 4 emperors. Fang Ping exhaled lightly. The future world was even more magnificent. He could even predict how the 3 realms would be shaken when the emperor and the extreme Tao heavenly emperor returned. Chapter 1165. After asking about the Earth Emperor God dynasty for a while, Fang Ping quickly took out 2 saint tokens. The God Creation Envoy looked at Fang Ping and raised his eyebrows slightly. "What are you doing?" Fang Ping smiled. "I've studied these 2 saint tokens. They should be in the same series. Other than the different words on the big seal, the rest are exactly the same. It feels like a copy. If you have something to say, just say it." Fang Ping thought for a while and said, "I feel that this saint token should be able to be fused. I wonder if the God Creation Envoy can help me fuse these 2 big seals?" "Fuse!" The God Creation Envoy frowned and did not take the saint token. After a while he said, "There's no need to fuse. Forcefully fusing might destroy the saint token. The 9 Emperor seals, 8 Heavenly King seals, 36 saint tokens, a total of 45 seals can be combined to form a new divine weapon. This kind of divine weapon is extremely troublesome to construct. This is also the only time in this old man's life that I feel that the divine weapon created by the 9 emperors is not bad." The God Creation Envoy was very proud, but this time he had a little more approval. He explained, "The 9 Emperor seal was mainly created by the 9 emperors, but the 4 emperors had also participated. It can be said that this divine weapon is a crystallization of the powerhouses of the 3 realms. There are also some special functions that I don't know much about. However, I know one thing. The materials used to create the 9 Emperor seal are not simple. Many things are treasures that have already disappeared. For example, some things in the source world, Origin Earth?" Fang Ping said. The God Creation Envoy shook his head slightly and said, "Yes, but not only this. The 9 Emperor seal is a symbol and also a supreme divine weapon. It represents the heavenly court's orthodox rule over the 3 realms. At the same time, it is also a kind of recognition of the origin Tao. The heavenly court walks on the origin Tao and is also the orthodox proof of the origin Tao's inheritance for countless years. This thing, if it's separated, its use is actually limited. It's not even as powerful as some divine weapons. However, if anyone can gather all 45 seals, it will definitely be of great use. Even I am not sure about this." 45, Fong Ping sighed. There were too many, and some of the saint tokens had been lost. It was impossible for the 36 sages of the past to all be alive. Some of their sage badges had already been lost. The 3 realms was so big, where could they find them? Fong Ping thought of this and suddenly said, "If the saint token is lost in the Sanjiao Gate, can it still be found?" "Sure." The God Creation Envoy laughed. "What do you think the world behind the Sanjiao Gate is?" Fong Ping fell into deep thought. Very quickly he raised his eyebrows and asked, "Source world." "Not bad." The God Forging Envoy nodded. "It is the source world." Strictly speaking, the Sanjiao Gate was the gate of the Great Tao. But where was the Great Tao? In the origin universe. Therefore, the Sanjiao Gate leads to some origin stars. The things you lost in the Sanjiao Gate can be found in the origin universe, provided that you can find them in the vast universe. This time, the God Creation Envoy said a few more words. A person's origin star can be moved. In other words, where you are is where your origin is. If 2 experts are very close to each other, then their origin stars won't be too far from each other. The God Creation Envoy said, "Of course, this is not far away, it is relatively speaking. For example, you and I, now that we are together, our origin stars are also the closest to each other. However, if you want to find my origin star in the origin world, then you may have to spend a lot of time. However, the stronger you are, the more obvious your senses will be. If you reach the Heavenly King stage, maybe you can also sense the location of this old man's origin star." The God Creation Envoy came to talk and said with a smile, "Do you know that the origin universe is actually divided into levels?" "What do you mean?" "Just like how we divide space into 9 heavens, the essence universe is pretty much the same. The reason why Tao corroborating heavenly kings are able to sense their essence stars is because it's a process of transition. Their essence stars rise to a higher level." Fong Ping did not know much about the origin universe, or rather, he knew almost nothing about it. At this moment, he was also interested. This was the secret of the origin Tao, or rather a world that only powerhouses were qualified to understand. Even a rank 9 could not sense it too clearly. Fong Ping was like a student asking, "Senior, is the origin world an illusion or a real existence?" When I materialized the Sanjiao Gate at rank 6, I felt that the Sanjiao Gate seemed to appear in another world. If it was an illusion, then wouldn't this Sanjiao Gate be fake? If it was real, then would there be life in the origin world? Real or illusion? The God Creation Envoy laughed and said, "It's hard to explain thoroughly. You can treat it as a desolate universe. It really exists. You can also treat it as an illusion because the people of the origin universe can't enter it. What enters is only the will. This is a world where the will exists. Or, in your words now, this is more similar to an online game. You can control it, but your body can't enter it." Fong Ping understood and said, "I understand a little. If the martial artist dies, will their origin universe be destroyed? Also, rank 9 can only come into contact with the origin, but rank 7 can open the Sanjiao Gate. Does rank 7 also have the origin world?" "Sanjiao Gate," the God Creation Envoy suddenly laughed and said, "Actually, when you cultivate the Sanjiao Gate, it means that you've taken the origin Tao. True beginner martial artists, or their lineage's direct descendants, don't have the Sanjiao Gate. The Sanjiao Gate is only an exclusive product of the origin Tao. You have to know that the Sanjiao Gate doesn't exist naturally, but was created by the late-stage 9 emperors. Actually, it can also be considered a type of divine weapon. If you don't take the origin Tao, where can you find the Sanjiao Gate?" Fong Ping frowned and said, "That means that beginner martial artists don't have the origin stars either." "Of course," the God Creation Envoy said, "after a martial artist dies, his origin world won't disappear completely, but it will be destroyed. Of course, if you completely shatter his origin world, then it will disappear. But even if it disappears, the things that you have in the Sanjiao Gate, unless they're destroyed, can also be found in the origin world. When the God creation envoy said this, he suddenly laughed and said, "Actually, you can try moving your origin stars and wandering around the origin universe. Maybe if you're lucky, you can pick up something. It's very difficult, like looking for a needle in a haystack." Tell me, in a universe, how difficult is it to pick up the treasures left behind by the predecessors? As he said that, he added again, many of the Ash Cat's divine weapons were actually picked up in the origin world. This fellow can roam the origin world. When the war broke out that year, the origin world was in turmoil. Some people died in battle or died. Their weapons were broken and scattered in the origin universe. At that time, the Ash Cat was nearby. In this way, if it roamed the origin, it could pick up some things. We can't roam the origin. We can only move according to our own origin stars. What kind of creature is the Ash Cat? Fong Ping asked doubtfully, "Why can it roam the origin?" The God creation envoy was silent for a moment, shook his head and said, "I'm not too sure, and there's no need to be very clear. Of course, you might have some judgments yourself, but these are up to you." Fong Ping did not ask any more this time. The God creation envoy said that the origin universe was still of some help to him. At the very least, he knew that after a martial artist died, the things in the Sanjiao Gate might be picked up in the origin world. In that case, if some of the saints who died back then were lost, there was still a chance to find them. Last time, Old Wang and the others said that they were killed by King Kuan's people. Those guys wanted the divine weapons, but they were still ruthless. They said that even if they lost the divine weapons, they could still find them after paying a price. In that case, they should also be searching through the origin universe. When a person died, the origin of nirvana would generally not move. It would always be there. At this time, Fong Ping did not ask any more and prepared to leave. He got up and walked a few steps. Fong Ping suddenly turned around and said, "May I ask, what is Senior's purpose? Senior has been trapped here for 8,000 years. His strength is so powerful, and his avatar is a saint, but he has never left the mountain. Why exactly?" "Me." The God creation envoy laughed. "I'm just a blacksmith. It's the same no matter where I study. Do I have to go out to forge iron? Why do you have to ask so carefully? In this world, everyone has their own selfish motives. Do you have to make it public for it to be considered correct? You, Fong Ping, don't have selfish motives? Don't you have your own secrets? If I asked you, would you tell me?" Fong Ping smiled and nodded. "That's true. I was presumptuous. Senior, rest well. I'll leave first." The God creation envoy looked at him for a while until he was about to leave. He smiled faintly. "Does unquestionable sword not care? Let him be," Fong Ping said without turning his head. "He wants to become a king. I actually won't reject him. If I really die, old Zhang will also die. I'm afraid the human race will come to an end. At this time, a heavenly king will stand up. Maybe he can still have some guts." Fong Ping left. The God creation envoy stared in the direction he left and suddenly laughed. "Did you hear that? In my opinion, although this kid is young, he is definitely more courageous than you. If he is alive, he is not afraid that you will snatch the position of the human king. If he dies, you might be more miserable. If Fong Ping died, the human race needed another powerhouse to stand up. The powerhouse who stood up at this moment might not be so comfortable. Endure humiliation? Be a dog? The human king was no longer an honor. Perhaps it was also a kind of humiliation. At this moment, the space fluctuated slightly. Jiang Hao appeared with a complicated expression. Fong Ping did not care about his existence at all. He did not take the battle for the human king seriously. Confident, ostentatious, as arrogant as ever, he knew Jiang Hao's identity, but he did not care too much. The premise was that Jiang Hao was harmless to humans. Jiang Hao was silent. After a long time, he suddenly said, "That person back then, was it Hong Yu?" "How would I know? Even Heavenly King Zhen doesn't know." "If he knows, would he tell me?" The God Creation Envoy sneered. If he finds a woman, does he want to share it with me? Jiang Hao was speechless and turned to leave. The God Creation Envoy smiled faintly. Have you thought about resurrecting your Tao companion? Jiang Hao's movements were slightly sluggish. After a while he said, Ask Unquestionable Sword, I don't know. Hee hee, the God Creation Envoy snorted and ignored him. He yawned and said, Deceive yourself. If you really have the guts, give up your previous life. If you don't give up in this life, the next life, and the next life, you will always be Unquestionable Sword. What are you thinking? Do you really think that you are a new human after reincarnating your spiritual consciousness? Jiang Hao's footsteps paused. Your mouth is as annoying as the heavenly King Zhenwang. No wonder you guys can still chat happily after 8,000 years. The God Creation Envoy said lazily, The truth is always disgusting. Oh, right, I haven't heard from the chaotic heavenly king for a long time. Where did he die? I don't know. Who are you trying to fool? The God Creation Envoy sneered. Although I don't go out, I know everything about the 3 realms. That guy disappeared after the establishment of the Earth Emperor Divine Dynasty. Was he suppressed by Hongyu, or did he run to the heavenly tomb? Why are you asking him? Just to watch the show. The God Creation Envoy was almost asleep. He yawned and said weakly, That's also a master who isn't afraid of anything. Without him, it wouldn't be lively enough. With him around, the 3 realms had been in chaos for 1,000 to 2,000 years, and there was a big show to watch every day. Now that he was gone, there was suddenly no good show to watch. The current heavenly kings were all gloomy and dull. This old man would like to see what would happen if he met Fang Ping and Zhang Tao. 2 shameless people met an unreasonable heavenly king. Both of them had the temperament to start a fight at the slightest disagreement. Would they fight until their brains broke? Don't say. If Tengu joins in, he will really beat his brains out. Jiang Hao was speechless. Did he have nothing to do? It was already chaotic enough at this time, and he still wanted to add to it. This guy was really not a good person. Jiang Hao could not be bothered with him and left. After he left, the God Creation Envoy laughed and wrote and drew on the paper. It's getting more and more interesting. Fight, fight. It's best if you beat your brains out. This 3 realms is a mess. It's good to clean it up. The God Creation Envoy murmured, then continued to pick up the comic book to read. This was still interesting. Magic City. Macmao. There were many wounded. In the 6 southern regions war, the MCMAU army fought against more than 3 times the number of enemies in the 6 southern regions, and there were many casualties. Even so, MCMAU did not have any pessimism. They were all in high spirits. Many of them had died in battle, but more had died in the catacombs. In the end, they even forced the catacombs' coalition forces to retreat behind Mount Imperial Sea. This was the first time a large army had completely driven away a territory's powerhouse. The goal was not to kill the opponent's powerhouse, but to defeat a territory in a large-scale battle. Ji Yao and the others had no choice but to retreat. If not for the fact that both sides had retreated in the end, perhaps this time humans would have officially invaded the restricted area and fought in the restricted area. Walking in MCMAU's southern area, he looked at his former classmates and teachers. At this moment, they were all carrying a strong murderous aura, more like the army than the students. Fang Ping was also filled with emotion. Back then, martial arts universities were established with the goal of cultivating martial artists to fight in the catacombs. However, at that time it was still a little milder, and they were all small-scale individual battles. Now, these people had participated in many large-scale army battles, and there were countless casualties. In the past 1 or 2 years, there were really a lot of MCMAU instructors and students participating in battles. Everyone had undergone a transformation. Walking on the campus road, Fang Ping saw many wounded walking, and he was also thoughtful. Participating in battles too often might not be a good thing. Everyone did not have time to settle things. Many people's injuries had accumulated. It seemed like it was not a big deal, but it might be troublesome in the future. Moreover, many people had encountered bottlenecks now, and they needed some independent training. After walking for a while, Fong Ping walked to the school building in the old area. Here, there were fewer and fewer people living now. Some old people had died in battle, and some old people were now running around, fighting in various places. Since MCMAU was founded, there were really not many of the older generation left. Old Man Li was still living here. Fong Ping rarely came here, but he was also familiar with the way. The small courtyard. It was unusually quiet. Li Changsheng, who had just broken through to Paragon, did not cause too much of a stir because Fong Ping was around. He was originally the first person in rank 9. Although his advancement to Paragon this time was very fast, Fong Ping had killed a saint first, so Old Man Li did not receive too much attention. In the small courtyard, some green bamboos were planted. The old house already had some paint peeling, looking a little shabby. At this moment, Old Man Li was drinking tea in the courtyard. When he saw Fong Ping before he said anything, Fong Ping smiled and said, "Old Li, didn't you say goodbye? It's only been a few days, and you're already back happily. Isn't your goodbye too cheap?" Old Man Li wanted to say a few more words, but at this moment his expression was ugly. He let out a humph, too lazy to reply. "If it wasn't for you, kid, who ran into trouble, would I come back so quickly?" This kid, there was nothing good to say. Fong Ping laughed, sat down on the stone bench, minding his own business and pouring a cup of tea. It's late at night, drinking tea alone in the courtyard. Lonely? You really don't want to find a partner? Get lost. I'm serious. You're also at Paragon now. How's Nan Chongsheng? When she comes back, I'll help you with your hair. Are you going to get lost or not? Fong Ping smiled brightly, joking for a while before returning to the main topic. After this breakthrough, I didn't have time to ask. After breaking through to Paragon, did your origin Tao increase your strength? As he said that, he asked again, did your vitality have a second qualitative change? Old Man Li said with some regret, vitality changed, but origin Tao still didn't increase. Fong Ping frowned. Why does your situation feel a little similar to beginner martial arts? Logically, there should be an increase. Could it be that your vitality's qualitative change is the embodiment of origin Tao? But if that's the case, your combat strength won't increase much. It's all right. Old Man Li did not mind. He laughed and said, after my breakthrough, my vitality has already reached 400,000 calories. I was originally twice as much as the average rank 9. Now that there's another qualitative change, it's equivalent to my vitality reaching 6 million calories. If not for the fact that I've just broken through and my strength control has slipped a little, I'll definitely leave another paragon behind today. 6 million calories. Very powerful. If there was an increase, then it would be 2 million calories. He would be an emperor-level powerhouse directly. But Fong Ping still had no clue why Old Man Li did not have an increase in origin. One must know that Extreme Path, Heavenly Emperors, also had an increase. At the thought of this, Fong Ping said hurriedly, "Go ask Cat. I'm afraid there's something wrong with your path. Since you've taken the origin path, Extreme Path should also have an increase. Why isn't there an increase?" Old Man Li chuckled and said, "Don't worry about it. I feel that Extreme Path is another kind of increase. It's because of Extreme Path that my vitality can go through a qualitative change once. That's why I can achieve 9 refinements easily. That's why I can reach Paragon so quickly. The increase in origin path might not be reflected, but I feel that this feeling isn't bad." You said beginner martial. I feel that Extreme Path is a combination of beginner martial and origin, but I'm afraid it's not too perfect. At this time, Fong Ping also thought of some things about himself. Cat's path. However, Cat and Old Man, they were still slightly different. Cat's world expanded and he became stronger. That was an all-round improvement. Something seemed wrong with Old Man Li. At this time, Old Man Li also said, "Previously, when I was breaking through, someone told me that the path of extreme path was wrong. It should be that Hong Yu." I think he might be talking about something related to mentality. Old Man Li thought for a while and said, "I have a serious bias. These few days, I've never encountered anyone who pulled me into the origin world to fight. I dare not try it easily. Fong Ping, you can try it when you're free. I don't know if there will be big problems once I enter the origin world to fight." As soon as he said that, Fong Ping instantly realized the seriousness of the problem. Yes, Old Man Li's origin world might not be strong enough. If he encountered a powerhouse in the aspect of mentality, there might be big problems. "Don't resist, I'll try." As Fong Ping said that, his consciousness moved. In the next moment, he pulled Old Man Li directly into his origin world. In the origin world, Old Man Li glanced at MCMAU, then at Sun City, deep in thought. He somewhat understood why people in these two places could break through. Fong Ping did not care about this. At this moment, he looked at Old Man Li and suddenly blasted a punch. Old Man Li waved his fist to block, but was sent flying by Fong Ping directly. Fong Ping saw that his figure had become much more illusory and said in a low voice, "The problem is a little serious. Your bias is too strong. As far as I know, even Batian Emperor actually has mentality. He even consulted Annihilation on the cultivation method of mentality. As for you, it seems like you've really integrated it completely. Now you don't even have mentality. This clone is just a clone of your will." After Fong Ping finished speaking, he pondered for a moment and said, "I don't know if I can separate your vitality and mentality now. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult. The qualitative change in your vitality is actually not just vitality force anymore. It's a new energy produced after the integration of mentality and vitality force." As Fong Ping said that, he thought for a while and said, "Now that I've taken this path, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to turn back. I can only move forward courageously and continue on. However, I suggest that you pay more attention to the origin world. I'll provide you with some origin chi so you can consolidate it. Don't let others easily pull you into the other party's origin or let others break into your origin. This path has its pros and cons, Li. We can see that as soon as you broke through, your vitality strength reached 6 million calories. Perhaps you'll have emperor-level combat strength soon. However, the cons are also very obvious. Right now, others are not paying too much attention to you. Once someone delves deeper, some of your flaws will be exposed." Old Man Li nodded. His flaws were more obvious. However, he still smiled and said, "It's okay. No matter how strong the enemy is, I'll break them with one sword. If they're so strong that I can't break them, I'll be dead even without the origin being broken. It's just a matter of time. It's not bad to turn all your strength into attack power and become a full attack warrior. You should worry more about yourself. Don't worry about an old man like me. Right now, you're in a more difficult situation than me." Fong Ping smiled and appeared in the outside world at the same time as Old Man Li. Although Old Man Li's problem was very serious, he did not care. Fong Ping could not do anything about it. In reality, he could not do anything about it. However, he knew Old Man Li's combat strength. 6 million calories was really not weak. This old man's strength control had always been very high. Perhaps it had something to do with him giving up on other things and focusing on attacking. After a few days, if he continued on the great path, he might really become an emperor. Fong Ping felt that it would not take long for Old Man Li to become an emperor. At the thought of this, Fong Ping stopped thinking about it. Everyone had their own path. In terms of knowledge, he was not as knowledgeable as Old Man Li. He could not give any good suggestions. At this moment, Fong Ping had just broken through not long ago. In addition to the battle, he was too tired. After chatting with Old Man Li for a while, Fong Ping disappeared from MCMAU. He continued to be mysterious and did not tell anyone where he was in closed-door cultivation. In the sea, at the bottom of the sea, Fang Ping opened up a small space at the bottom of the sea. Only now did he have the mood to think about everything that happened today. Post-battle summary was also an important way to improve himself. I still made some mistakes today. Actually, I should have made a trip to the Spirit Emperor's side in advance. If I brought the Ash Cat, maybe I would have one more combat strength instead of persuading the other party on the spot later. The God Creation Envoy's avatar should not have been released in the beginning. But if I didn't release it, it would be difficult for me to fight Tiangui alone. But it's also hard to say. At that time, it was actually possible to borrow the strength of a few other saints. There's also the Ash Cat. I should ask everything clearly next time. If I had known that this cat could trap a few saints, maybe I could have killed 1 or 2 more saints. After summarizing the gains and losses, Fang Ping thought about himself again. There were still many flaws. In the end, Fang Ping looked at his new data, calculating how much room he still had for improvement. Wealth, 44 billion points vitality, 1,520,000 calories, 1,520,000 calories. Mentality, 18,000 hertz, 18,000 hertz. Can be cut. Origin, longitudinal 2,000 meters, increased by 110%. Horizontal 7,600 meters, increased by 76%. Combat techniques, God-slaying saber technique, plus 9%. Combat techniques combination deduction, 1 million points / time strength control, 82% ultimate outburst. 363-2040 cal / 44840 cal. His vitality changed qualitatively again. Fang Ping, who had broken through to Paragon, should have a vitality of 760,000 calories. However, after the Paragon changed qualitatively, the system automatically converted it to rank 9 vitality. His basic vitality was as high as 52 million calories. One had to know that a weak Paragon only had 200,000 calories vitality at Paragon and 400,000 calories rank 9 vitality. Fang Ping's foundation was several times higher than those weak Paragons. I haven't reached the peak of this stage yet. This time, Fang Ping walked directly to 2,000 meters of the main path. At the impasse realm, 1,000 meters was only a step. Fang Ping was much stronger than the average Paragon. He went straight from Paragon Stage 1 to Stage 2. After the increase, it was even more terrifying, close to the limit of 5 million calories. However, his strength control had slipped slightly, dropping a little. At this moment, he had not reached the peak of his current realm. Otherwise, his vitality would be slightly higher. However, Fang Ping soon frowned. At the peak, the main path was too long. Walking 1,000 meters, the increase was 10%. 100 meters was only a 1% increase. This could not be compared to before. This was also the reason why many powerhouses had stagnated in the impasse realm for many years. I must speed up. It's best if I can integrate Magic City. Fang Ping had a plan in his heart. Next, he should settle down for a while and walk around Magic City properly. Chapter 1166. The origin road's length had reached 2,000 meters in a day. In terms of width, Fang Ping could expand it slightly, but he did not have time to do so before. At this moment, Fang Ping still had a period of improvement. Including his golden body, he could hone it again, letting his vitality reach the limit of the current stage. There was still a lot of room for improvement in his strength. Fang Ping even felt that he had hope of reaching the limit of a saint and beginning to touch the realm of a heavenly king. Of course, the rapid improvement of his strength also caused Fang Ping to lack some things now. He lacked the foundation and the accumulation. If he continued on the path, even if he integrated Magic City, he might enter a bottleneck period. The path ahead, he was a little lost. Fang Ping went into closed-door cultivation again. The 3 realms, since the departure of King Wu and the others, entered a period of silence for the first time. War no longer broke out. The battles below the pinnacle continued. But this time, there was really no one above the pinnacle appearing. In less than 2 months, too many powerhouses had died in battle, more than the powerhouses who had fallen in the fake sky grave. At Spirit Emperor Dojo, hundreds of powerhouses fought, but the number of pinnacle deaths might not be as many as the outside world. It could be seen how frequent the battles in the outside world were these days. The catacombs. At the border of the 4 main courts, there was now a grand hall. Inside the hall, incomparably powerful figures appeared. Around them, the void cracks appeared frequently. Even if their auras were restrained, they were extremely powerful. Saints. Not one, but many saints. The Divine Court Army's Viceroy, Temple Master Green Ink, 3 saints, and another 4 saints. A total of 9 saints were seated. Below, Ji Hong and the others were also seated. Further below, there were some important figures of the imperial court, the descendants of the true king, the masters of the imperial court, the sect masters of the divine sect, a grand meeting of the entire catacombs. 9 saints covered the catacombs. The atmosphere was a little quiet. This time, Tiangui's death was also a considerable loss to them. However, the presence of 9 saints was still enough to intimidate everyone. After an unknown amount of time, the Divine Court Army's viceroy sitting above said indifferently, "The 3 realms are in turmoil, and the saints have returned. The great chaos has arrived. And this is not the end of the great chaos. It is just the beginning. The saints have fallen, and even the heavenly kings have fallen. Sooner or later, they will appear one by one. The divine court was destroyed in the hands of many powerhouses back then. We have many enemies, no less than the human world. I'll avenge the destruction of the divine dynasty sooner or later. Today, great chaos is also a great era. Some will rise and some will fall. In the next few years, there will definitely be new powerhouses who will advance at a tremendous pace. The opportunity is right in front of us. The divine dynasty collapsed, and the remnants fled to the desolate border. After 3,000 years, the 4 great imperial courts were born, and many imperial dynasties and divine sects were born. Today, we want to rebuild the divine dynasty and rebuild the heavenly court." Hearing this, Sky Sword and the others' expressions changed slightly. They were not the experts of the earthly Emperor God dynasty, nor had they experienced that period. When they died, there was also the heavenly court, but at that time the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors were glorious. Today, the governor actually wanted to rebuild the heavenly court. The few revived sages frowned slightly and didn't say anything. There were some things that they were clear about. There must be a reason why they were involved with the experts of the earthly Emperor God dynasty. Rebuild the heavenly court. At this moment, Qing Emo also said seductively, "The heavenly court shall be established." In the 3 realms, only the heavenly court was legitimate. The divine dynasty inherited the orthodoxy of the heavenly court and ruled the 3 realms for 3,000 years. Some rebels, the ones who betrayed the emperor, harbored evil intentions and shook the foundation of the 3 realms. During the divine dynasty's era, the 3 realms were peaceful. But now it is in turmoil and experts have fallen like rain. It is all caused by these rebels. In the past, the divine dynasty collapsed, but its foundation still exists. Now we have returned. We will no longer rebuild the divine dynasty in the name of the divine dynasty. We will rebuild the heavenly court and suppress the rebels. The governor waited for her to say a few words, then said again, "Everyone, you are all descendants of the divine dynasty. Now that you are in charge of the land realms and rebuilding the heavenly court, we still need your help. If there is anything wrong, just say it." Below, the true monarchs looked at each other. King Huai hid at the back, not saying a word. Gu Chuan thought for a moment, then said in a deep voice, "Now that the divine continent has suffered a calamity, it is not impossible to rebuild the divine dynasty. However, I still have some doubts. Governor, please enlighten me. Please speak." Gu Chuan's expression was solemn, and his tone was solemn. "May I ask, Governor, Who will be the master of the heavenly court after the heavenly court is rebuilt? Someone will naturally return. Lord, earthly sovereign, Gu Chuan asked again, then said in a deep voice, or Lord Demon Sovereign? The governor looked at him, and after a while he said, We will know in the future. We are all sages, and we will not recognize the weak as our master. Ji Hong thought for a moment, then smiled. Will the ancient emperors return one by one? I don't know, but the governor said in a deep voice, It is very likely. Ji Hong took a deep breath, instantly feeling an incomparably huge pressure. He said again, Then after the divine continent is unified, how will we settle down? The governor had already made up his mind. At this moment, he said calmly, In the past, when the heavenly court was still around, there were also various overlords. The rebuilding of the heavenly court is not to make you slaves, but to listen to the orders of the heavenly court. In the past, the heavenly court had 3 envoys, 8 kings, 36 sages, and experts from all over. That was why the heavenly court was prosperous. Now that the heavenly court is rebuilt, we also want to appoint 3 envoys, 8 kings, and various great sages. At this point, the governor said slowly, In the past, I controlled the army. When the heavenly court is rebuilt, I will control the army of the heavenly court as the weapon master. Rumble. The heaven and earth trembled slightly. The expressions of Sky Sword and the others changed slightly. Directly becoming a weapon master without changing his name was a huge taboo. If the ancient weapon master did not die, the governor would have to cross paths with him sooner or later. This was very dangerous. However, the more it was so, the more it proved the determination to rebuild the heavenly court. Overthrow everything. Start anew. The governor's expression was indifferent. He ignored everything and continued, Sky Sword Sage will be the palm imprint envoy. Sky Sword sighed in his heart. In this world of great competition, one had to fight. Although he knew that this title was a huge problem, he still acquiesced to it. This was also something that they had discussed before. Rebuild the heavenly court. Rule the 3 realms. Gather the power and the world. Even if the power was with the humans now, they might not be the main characters. Fight. Without fighting, who knew who would be the main character? Palm Imprint Envoy, a very dangerous title, but Sky Sword still acquiesced. At this moment, the governor looked at the ancient sage who fought with Sage Wei and said slowly, Sage Haiyu will be the Sea Imprint Envoy. This ancient sage was one of the overlords of the Taboo Sea in the past, and he had just recovered not long ago. Hearing this, he nodded slightly and did not speak. Sea Imprint Envoy. Everyone knew that the Sea Imprint Envoy was still alive. He was in more danger than the other 2, but wealth came from danger. They were not far from the Heavenly King level. As for the humans' boundless force, he was completely ignored. The 3 envoys were here. At this moment, the governor continued, In addition, there are 8 kings. The other 6 sages here are all part of the 8 kings. In addition, the 2 kings, Tianji and Tianming, are also named as the 8 kings. 3 envoys, 8 kings, 11 sages. At this moment, some people had strange looks in their eyes. Ji Hong said slowly, Governor, the 2 kings are named as the 8 kings. Was it you or someone else? The 2 kings were much stronger than these people. They were true peak sages. In the end, the 3 envoys did not mention the 2 kings. They had thought that the 2 kings were not on the same side as these people. But now the governor said calmly, The 2 kings have contributed, but the heavenly court has just been established. Wait until they become heavenly kings. Then we'll talk about other things. The 3 envoys and 8 kings were all sages. None were much weaker than the other. They had just recovered, which was why their strength had dropped. They might not be weaker than the 2 kings. Moreover, in terms of seniority, it was not the 2 kings' turn to be above them. Back then, when the governor was supervising the battle of the 3 realms, the 2 kings were just hall masters. The governor didn't want to talk about this. He continued, Myriad Demon King, Heavenly Demon King, Jing Qi, King Ji, Feng King, Gu Chuan, Tianyu are named as the 36 great sages. At this moment, Gu Chuan had no choice but to ask, "Governor, then what about our kingly 36 sages?" Or something else. They weren't sure how strong Li Zhu was. However, during the battle at the King battlefield, Li Zhu was so strong that even a heavenly king didn't attack him. These people actually disregarded Li Zhu. The governor had never seen Li Zhu before. However, that didn't prevent him from knowing who he was. How could he not know the masters of the 4 royal courts? At this moment, the governor said slowly, "When King Li returns, there will be arrangements." As he said this, he looked at the non-true God experts. "All of you should work hard to cultivate. When you become true gods, there will be a title. Then what about the return of the other true kings in God continent?" Ji Hong also asked. There were still many true kings fighting in the fake heaven tomb. 36 sages weren't enough. These true kings were overlords of their own territories. Would they be willing to be servants after returning? The governor said lightly, "With the re-establishment of the heavenly court, there will be many places to employ people. The re-establishment of the heavenly court's army will require the help of various experts. We will not mistreat them." As he said this, he said, "Does anyone have any other opinions?" Below, Ji Yao was silent for a while. Suddenly, she said, "Governor, after the re-establishment of the heavenly court, how will we treat the land of rebirth, which is the human race?" "The 3 realms will be unified." The governor replied, "What about the overseas immortal islands, heavens beyond, and the land of realms?" "I said that the 3 realms will be unified." The governor frowned. "In a few days, Sage Haiyu will make a trip to the Sea of Bitterness and subdue the various immortal islands. I will also visit the heavens beyond heavens and let them return to the heavenly court. The Sky Sword Sage will also visit the blessed grotto heavens, and the heavenly court will appoint them." He didn't go into detail. Some places that were occupied by the emperor's bloodline were a different matter. However, where there were no experts from the emperor's bloodline who would dare to resist the heavenly court when the 9 sages were alive, Ji Yao said again, "Then who should the heavenly court's army and the various city lords listen to?" The governor's eyes were cold. "We will listen to the heavenly court's orders." Ji Hong gave his daughter a look and shook his head. "Don't ask any more." The 9 sages had reached an agreement. Although it was said to be a discussion, it was actually a conclusion. If he continued to ask, he would only invite trouble. When Ji Yao saw this, she suppressed the unwillingness in her heart and didn't speak anymore. Her father was conferred as one of the 36 sages. It sounded good, but in reality it was just in name. These revived sages were going to rule God continent. With the appearance of the 9 sages, who in God continent could resist them? God continent, which had been divided for more than 2,000 years, was going to be completely unified this time. Seeing that no one spoke, the governor was silent for a while. Suddenly he said, "Then it's decided. Everyone, please seal. It's better to not delay. Today we will re-establish the heavenly court." At this moment, the 9 sages suddenly soared into the sky. They directly tore through the void and appeared outside the main hall. 9 powerful auras covered the sky and covered the earth, radiating across the entire underground cavern, suppressing everyone in the underground cavern to the point where they couldn't breathe. 8,000 years ago, the heavenly court was destroyed. God Dynasty inherited the heavenly court's orthodoxy and passed it down for 3,000 years. Today, the 3 realms are in chaos. We should re-establish the heavenly court and set rules so that the 3 realms can live in peace. The governor's voice spread in all directions. Today, the heavenly court shall be re-established. Heaven and earth shall bear witness. The various emperors shall bear witness. The great Tao shall bear witness. Please seal. At this moment, the few people in the sky threw out a huge seal. Heavenly Sword Seal, Heavenly Speed Seal, Heavenly Skill Seal. Not only that, a few more seals were thrown out. Back when the heavenly realm collapsed, some sage tokens were circulated. At this moment, these people threw out a total of 6 sage tokens. Not only that, but the viceroy also tossed out a large golden seal. The seal instantly grew many times larger, covering the sky and earth, revealing an ancient word below. Li, kingly seal. The heavenly king seals of the heavenly kings who had fallen in the battle of the God dynasty had fallen into the hands of these people. If news of this spread to the fake heavenly tomb, it would probably cause a commotion. 1 heavenly king seal, 6 sage tokens. At this moment, the heavenly king seal was in the middle, and the 6 sage tokens circled around it, emitting powerful auras. In the next moment, the 7 seals pierced through the sky. At this moment, many experts saw a shocking scene. The 7 seals pierced through the sky, growing larger and larger, covering the sky and earth. Many people were incomparably terrified. They saw the seals descending as if they were going to destroy the world. "Father!" Ji Yao stared at Ji Hong in shock. What was this? The divine artifact that stabilized the 3 realms. Ji Hong was also shocked. He transmitted his voice, the ultimate treasure that stabilized the 3 realms. Unfortunately, it isn't complete. Otherwise, this would just be a formality. The area covered by the seals would be the heavenly court's territory. As he spoke, the seals covered the entire God continent. At this moment, it seemed like only the 7 seals could be seen in the entire world. The seals descended. In some places, experts' auras erupted, but it was useless. The seals did not waver and continued to descend. 7 luminaries, my heaven, where the West Emperor's bloodline was located. 7 luminaries, my heaven's entrance, was in the Forbidden Zone. At this moment, the sage of the West Emperor's bloodline walked out from the entrance. In the sky, a seal descended. The sage of the West Emperor's bloodline had a slight change in expression as he murmured, "How ambitious!" The earthly emperor's bloodline actually wanted to rebuild the heavenly court. Coincidentally, the West Emperor's bloodline was also here. At this moment, the seal descended, clearly intending to expel the West Emperor's bloodline. At this moment, a true god appeared behind him. He was also an expert of the 7 luminaries, my heaven. When he saw this, he revealed a worried expression and said softly, "Senior Shangnan, what should we do?" Previously, the human emperor's bloodline was also within the Forbidden Zone. They could still watch each other. But this time, Jiao Xian had fallen and Yuan Gang had escaped. Haoding Xiao Dutian had directly sealed the heavens beyond Heaven's Gate and no longer left the mountain. Even though such a huge matter had happened, he had shut himself in. However, the West Emperor's bloodline was the bloodline of the Emperor. What should they do now? Sage Sheng then looked at the earth-shattering aura and then at the 9 figures standing proudly in the void. He frowned. The Forbidden Zone was a whole entity. How could they allow others to sleep soundly beside them? The 9 sages did not care about the outer region, but covered the entire Forbidden Zone. Their attitude was clear. The Forbidden Zone belonged to them. They could ignore the other bloodlines of the Emperor and not offend them. However, the West Emperor's bloodline either left or submitted. Sage Xing Nan's expression changed. He was the only sage in the West Emperor's bloodline who had awakened. Obviously, he was no match for the 9 sages. If not for the fact that they were wary of the other parties, the 9 of them would have attacked directly. Sighing, Shang Nen looked at the outer region. There was Wangu Mountain and the people of the North Emperor's bloodline there. Moreover, the human race was also fighting in the outer region. Did he have to go to the outer region? After a moment of silence, the seal floated in the air. Previously, there was only 1 seal. Now there were 7 seals. Obviously, the other party had discovered him and was warning or intimidating him. Leave or stay. Shengnen was furious. The 7 luminaries, my heaven, was originally controlled by the people of the West Emperor's bloodline. They had been rooted here for tens of thousands of years. He had come here as soon as he awakened. But now, go! Xingnan's expression was gloomy. Activate the heavens beyond heaven and teleport to the Sea of Misery. Lord, the true god of the 7 luminaries Mai heaven, was furious and unwilling. The 7 luminaries Mai heaven has been here for many years. Teleporting now will consume a lot of energy. The heavens beyond heaven will probably be damaged too. Some spirit veins might collapse. Sheng Nan did not say anything. At this stage, did he really have to fight the 9 sages? He could only avoid them. Seeing Sheng Nan like this, the true god returned to the heavens beyond heaven helplessly. Very quickly, the void began to tremble violently. The heavens beyond heaven could be moved. It was a refined product. Just moving it would cost too much. Moreover, the passage that was built would collapse. Rebuilding the passage that connected the 2 worlds was also a huge problem. The West Emperor's bloodline left the forbidden area, leaving it to the 9 sages. On Wanggu Mountain, Yu Wei, Qinghua, and Ling Xiao looked towards the interior of Imperial Sea Mountain. There, the 9 sages soared into the sky. There, the 7 seals covered the sky. One of the seals had already reached Imperial Sea Mountain. However, it did not cross the border. Qinghua and Ling Xiao's expressions were solemn. They could already see a part of the forbidden area. The void was torn, and a prosperous world seemed to be moving towards the Sea of Misery. The West Emperor's bloodline had retreated. However, that was the heavens beyond heaven. The boundaries could not be evacuated. The 9 sages rebuilt the heavenly court. Their might was unparalleled. Were they going to cross Imperial Sea Mountain and force the Wangwu bloodline to move? At this moment, they were not the only ones paying attention. On Earth's side, Wu Quishan, Li Changsheng, Jiao, and the others had also entered the catacombs. They looked over there with solemn expressions. Were they going to cover the outer realm? Heavenly Wood's incarnation had also arrived at this moment. He looked in the direction of Imperial Sea Mountain and said softly, "Rebuilding the heavenly court." How bold! Behind these people, there must be a top-notch powerhouse. Once the seals cover the outer realm will be a battleground. The heavenly court's territory cannot be invaded. Either we give up the outer realm, or we can only fight again. Wu Quishan said in a low voice, "The humans are not afraid of war. The outer realm will never give up. If we give up, the next battlefield will be Earth. If we open a battlefield on Earth, Earth will be completely destroyed sooner or later. Even if we die in battle here, the humans will not give up the outer realm." These words were said resolutely and decisively. As long as the catacombs dared to cover the outer realm and dared to send people to fight, then they would fight. The humans had been fighting in the outer realm for 100 years. Tens of millions of people had died here because they were unwilling to let the battlefield enter Earth. Once the battlefield was opened on Earth, blood would flow like a river. They could not retreat. However, over there, 9 saints were in the sky. There was also the Overlord level whale unicorn and many desperate realm people. At this moment, Wu Quishan was also deeply worried. Would another great war break out right after the war ended? Fortunately, at this moment, the golden aura only shrouded the restricted area and did not continue to spread outwards. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, actually, the humans were also unwilling to start a war again now. They were uncertain too. Could Fang Ping still find so many saints to help? Would the powerhouse who suppressed the 3 saints with 3 avatars earlier make a move again? They did not know. The only thing they could be sure of was that Heavenly Wood and Fang Ping both had the combat strength of saints. On Cat's side, even if he made a move again, it would be difficult to hold back 2 saints like last time. One would be enough to kill him. As for Jiang Hao's identity, they still did not know at this moment. They were also not sure where the mysterious powerhouse came from, and whether he would appear again. Since the catacombs did not cover the outer realm now, it meant that the catacombs did not have the intention to start a war with the humans again. This made everyone feel much more relaxed. The catacombs were also afraid. On the human side, they still did not know where the God Creation Envoy was, or whether he would make a move. Fang Ping, Heavenly Wood, Cat, Jianghao were all powerhouses. In addition, Feng Yun and Yue Wei might help again, including Lin Hai. If they fought again, the outcome would be even more difficult to determine than the last time. Based on this time the Nine Saints decided to use the Outer Realm as the dividing line. For the time being, they would not conflict with the humans again. It was more suitable to use this place as the battlefield for both sides. On this day, the three realms were shaken. The catacombs re-established the heavenly court. The Nine Saints revived and suppressed the restricted area. The Emperor West's bloodline retreated and entered the Bitter Sea. At this time, the land of the Bitter Sea was also filled with heroes. Deep in the Bitter Sea, a wretched old man's face was full of grief and indignation. There was no way to live. It wanted to look for Cat. Now that there were more and more powerhouses who had revived, whoever saw it wanted to take it down and chase it everywhere. Although the Bitter Sea was big, there was not much land. It could not keep wandering in the Bitter Sea, right? The restricted area was occupied by the Nine Saints. There were also humans and the Wangu bloodline in the Outer Realm. No matter how big the world was, there was no place for it to stay. What should I do? The cat tree wanted to cry, but had no tears, other than the human world. It seemed like there was no place to run. However, if it went to the human world, wasn't it sending itself to the cat to eat? I'll wait for you to come back on your own. Magic City. The cat yawned and responded lazily. I'm too lazy to look for you. It's so troublesome to look for you. I'm just waiting for you to come back. When I come back, I can eat delicious food. I haven't eaten cat fruit for a long time. I really miss it. The cat yawned and opened its mouth wide, as if waiting for something. If Fang Ping saw this action, he would probably think of those fish demons who took the initiative to roast themselves and send them to the cat's mouth. The cat tree in the Forbidden Sea could not help but shiver at this moment. It was a little sad and indignant. It had nowhere to go. When the powerhouses of the three realms revived and saw it, it was like seeing food, although it could indeed be eaten. Chapter 1167. In Emperor Ling Ling's dojo. At the moment when the catacombs re-established the heavenly court, the bodies of Guardian C and the others shook slightly. The next moment, Envoy Zhenhai, who had been calm before, suddenly looked cold and said in a stern tone, "How dare you?" Envoy Zhenhai was furious. It was not the only one. At this moment, on the other side, King Qian's aura erupted and shook the sky. A seven-petaled lotus rose as his voice was extremely cold. How dare you? Someone actually dares to re-establish the heavenly court and seize my rightful position. Bastard! Courting death! King Sin and King Zhen shouted. On the other side, King Kuan also shattered the void, and the phantom of a Buddha that seemed to come from ancient times covered the world. He shouted, "How audacious! The emperor hasn't appeared yet. Yet he dares to rebuild the heavenly court. Courting death? Hong Yu, is that you?" King Kuan roared, and the surrounding void collapsed. Behind him, the three sages didn't look good either. They were a little angry. On the other side, the two kings quietly retreated, not daring to say anything. It was a mess. The outside world might really be in chaos. Someone re-established the heavenly court, conferring titles on all sides. Not only that, they even used the heavenly king imprint and Saint Writ, depriving them of something. Only people like them could understand what this meant. When Fang Ping announced his conferment ability, these people did not react at all. That was because Fang Ping was just talking about it and did not trigger anything. But now, the 9 sages had used the sage badges and heavenly emperor seals. This was unforgivable. At this moment, King Qian, who had unleashed the strength of Break 7, was no longer a nice person. He shouted coldly, "How dare you? How dare you bully me? The heavenly realm has been destroyed for 8,000 years, but no one dares to establish the heavenly court because we are still alive. The heavenly court is still here. The orthodoxy still exists. King Qian was extremely furious. Yes, the orthodoxy was still there. The Tao orthodoxy of the origin path still existed. The destruction of the heaven realm did not mean the destruction of the heavenly court. The 8 kings were still the 8 kings, and the 36 saints were still 36 saints. On the other side, Saint Tian Kuei was also infuriated and said, Tiandi Tianming is gone. This must be the demon emperor dynasty's restoration. Back then, the demon emperor wanted to restore the heavenly court, but he was afraid of us and never dared to do so. The annihilation of the demon emperor god dynasty was also related to this matter. I didn't expect them to dare to come again. Damn it! Damn it! Kill him! Tian Kuei was also furious. All the heavenly kings were livid. King Kuin's eyes turned cold and froze the void. He looked around and said coldly, Hongyu, you're courting death. Bastard. The heavenly court hasn't been destroyed, yet you dare to rebuild it. Everyone looked at King Kuin. On the other side, Li Zhu walked in the air and said coldly, Is Hongyu the demon emperor of the past? Just as these words came out, someone chuckled and said, It's him. Let me tell you, don't be fooled by Hongkuin's anger. In fact, between the two of them, one is playing the bad cop, while the other is playing the good cop. It's just that we didn't split it evenly back then, but this time it's hard to say. Heavenly King Suppression revealed his whereabouts and laughed strangely. This time, Hongyu and Hongkuin might have reached an agreement to rebuild the heaven courts together. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to do it back then, let alone now. The two brothers have broken through 8, becoming unrestrained, both wishing to become emperors. They are going to overturn the heavens. On the other side, King Wu tore through the void and said with a strange smile, Although I don't know what happened, I feel that you are going to be out of luck. Re-establish the heavenly court. Are they going to capture you and bring you back as slaves? Heavenly King Jin laughed and said, Servant? Not to that extent. Forget about someone rebuilding the heavenly court. They conferred the new 3 emissaries, 8 kings and 36 saints, using the heavenly king seal and saint token. Just like the king of human path, the power of all living beings was feedback. The heavenly court was the orthodox back then. Regardless of whether the 3 realms submitted to it or not, it still had some effect. The heavenly kings and saints who were conferred were also related to the heavenly court and had some effect on cultivation. But now, ha ha ha, someone conferred those orthodox gods again. Although the heavenly king seal and saint token have not been gathered, and there is no 9 emperor seal, they're going to usurp the throne, ha ha ha. Heavenly King Jin laughed and looked at old Zhang, adding again, Do you understand? Ignoring the explanation, that kid Fang Ping conferred the title of King of Human and actually took away some of your opportunities, do you understand? Zhang Tao laughed and said, Of course I understand. This kid is improving rapidly, and it has something to do with King of Human. I am improving slowly now. Sigh, looks like there is some trouble. It's more than trouble. Heavenly King Zhen laughed again and said, The first thing those newly appointed fellows do is to get rid of the previous ones and take over themselves. Hee, now King Qian and the rest of the old farts are dead for sure. Everyone looked at the two of them coldly, watching the two of them work together to provoke themselves. These 2B asterisk stards were adding insult to injury. King Qian looked around coldly, his tone becoming colder and colder. Hongyu, come out. It's fine if it's not you, but if it's you, do you really think you can fight against the powerhouses of the 3 realms? How dare you do such a thing? You're lawless. Everyone's qi activity erupted, stirring up the void and causing it to collapse. They were all furious. Some of them no longer hid their strength. King Qian, the leader of the 8 kings, had broken through 7. King Kuin had also broken through 7. Sea Guardian had broken through 7 as well. These people did not live the past 8,000 years in vain. On the other side, Heaven's extremity gulped. He was not crazy anymore. He really was not crazy anymore because someone was going crazy. Heaven's Extremity looked at Moon Spirit and said carefully, "Moon Spirit, I want to leave." Moon Spirit looked at him coldly, her eyes bloodshot. Heaven's Extremity raised the earthly sovereign sword in his hand and said sheepishly, "I'll give it to you. I don't want it any more. I'm scared. I'm going to die." Moon Spirit was not going to help Hong Yu, was she? But if Hong Yu was the mastermind, he would offend so many heavenly kings. He was going to die. Heaven's Extremity was really terrified. The 4 kings of Qian, Kuan, Sun, Zhen, Tian Chief, the king of the sages, Sea Guardian, the 7 heavenly kings, the 3 sect protectors, and the other sages of the 36 sages were all there. Heaven's Extremity was shivering. It was too terrifying. This was not just a small matter. Someone had taken away their rightful position. Although they had not succeeded, the heavenly kings had the heavenly king seal, and the sages had the sage token. But this was a provocation and a fight. What were they fighting for? They were fighting for the chance to become an emperor. How to become an emperor? Walk the origin Tao. Who was the rightful origin Tao? The heavenly courts. This was a chain of interests. Even if the heavenly realm was destroyed, King Qian and the others did not deny that they were the 8 kings of the heavenly courts. Moon Spirit looked at him. He did not even want the earthly sovereign sword. Heaven's Extremity had been following her because of the earthly sovereign sword. But now, this fellow did not even want the divine weapon and wanted to leave. Heaven's Extremity saw her glaring at him and said bitterly, "I don't want to take it away. This sword is too hot. Unless you don't help Hong Yu. Unless my father is here, I won't do it." Too terrifying. There were few of them who had broken through 7. They were too terrifying. How could he, a newly ascended heavenly king, compare to them? Breaking through 7 was actually a limit. Not everyone had the chance to break through 8. Heavenly Hound, Cat Protector, and the others had some special abilities when they broke through 8 back then. Some of them even forged jade bones. Breaking through 7 was actually the limit of the origin Tao. He did not dare to offend so many people at once. Heaven's Extremity was no longer crazy because he felt that someone else would be even crazier than him. Moon Spirit's eyes were bloodshot. She gritted her teeth and said, "It might not be him. He's dead. He's been dead for many years. That person might not be him. Even if it was him, he would not have done it." Rebuilding the heavenly courts was too bold. Heaven's Extremity said dryly, "It's hard to say. I heard back then that the demon emperor might be him. He wants to become an emperor." Back then, the demon emperor god dynasty also had the intention of rebuilding the heavenly courts. Now that it has been rebuilt, can you guarantee that it's not him? Moon Spirit snorted and stared at him. "I'm not sure yet. You're not allowed to leave." "I'm leaving." "You dare to leave?" "Leave. I'll chase you to death." "You're unreasonable." Heaven's Extremity was furious. Wasn't she being unreasonable? Moon Spirit snorted. What was there to be reasonable about? But she quickly said, "Find him first. If it's really him, you can leave." Heaven's Extremity heaved a sigh of relief and looked into the distance. "Then let's move alone. Don't be with these people. I'm afraid." He was afraid that if they met together and these people attacked, should he attack or not? Too conflicted. Right now, Heaven's Extremity only wanted to get out. Once he got out, there was still the new heavenly courts. He was a little worried. Even heavenly kings were in danger. The Spirit Emperor's dojo was in chaos. Star Town in the small world. The God Creation envoy shook his head again. It was messy enough. If it was really done by Hong Yu, then this fellow was indeed worthy of being one of the top 10 influential figures that he had selected. He was courageous enough. At this time, the heavenly courts had been re-established and the various factions had been appointed. Although many people had been offended, once they were recognized like the human race, those people would all improve. A group of saints might produce many heavenly kings. It's getting more and more interesting. At this juncture, all sorts of ghosts and demons have appeared. The God Creation Envoy shook his head again and sighed. The God Creation Envoy has been forgotten. What a pity, he looks down on me. The 3 envoys had been appointed, but they hadn't been appointed. Didn't they know that I was appointed by the heavenly courts together with the 3 envoys? Or did they think that he was in the 3 realms and didn't dare to offend him now? You're looking down on me. The old man was sulking and couldn't be bothered to get involved. Forget it, let them fight. The 3 realms seemed calm, but it was in a mess. At this moment, Fong Ping had also received the news, but he didn't care too much. It didn't matter if it was the heavenly courts or not. It had nothing to do with him. The reconstruction of the catacombs' heavenly courts was not special to most people. The ancient times had already become a legend. The 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors had not appeared for too long. Low-level martial artists had long forgotten about them. Even if there were rumors that the 4 emperors were reincarnated, it was not certain whether it was true or not. Based on this, other than arousing the anger of those old antiques, there was not much change. In the blink of an eye, April was almost over. The 3 realms had a rare period of peace. On the human side, it was also thriving. One martial artist after another entered the catacombs. Small-scale wars were still breaking out, but they no longer attracted too much attention. On this day, the catacombs' outer region, 7 southern regions, 7 southern regions, Magic City catacombs. During this period, there were also small-scale wars breaking out in the direction of Imperial Sea Mountain. With Imperial Sea Mountain as the boundary, some battles would often break out. Humans and the catacombs fought for control of Imperial Sea Mountain, including the ownership of some mineral veins. The original Hope City had long become a cat palace. Unfortunately, after the cat palace was built, the cat never came to live in this city again. He said that he would come back once he found the heaven imprisoning bell, but the heaven imprisoning bell could not be found. The cat was also very helpless. Although he had seen it many times with his own eyes, he still could not get it now at the fake Sky Cemetery, right? Therefore, the cat took the initiative to forget about returning to 7 southern regions. Gong Juanzi had already run away. Kuokang Mountain was destroyed. Why would he come back? The coastline was now also a target for human defense. In the past, they only needed to defend against the enemies in the direction of Imperial Sea Mountain. Now they had no choice but to add another line of defense to defend against the enemies in the Forbidden Sea. The powerhouses guarding the coastline were a few rank 9s from MCMAU. On the coastline, rows of energy cannons were aimed at the sea. Only the muzzles were exposed. These energy cannons had been used many times. Many sea monsters wanted to go ashore, but they were defeated by humans several times. The energy cannons had contributed a lot. Just today, when a few rank 9s were still guarding, in the sea a figure flickered. Wretchedness was its trademark. Even when the old man was at the peak, he was still hunched, thin and small. His eyes darted around as if he was ready to run at any time. We're here, looking at the city on the shore in the distance, looking at the city that looked like a big cat. The old man could not help but shiver. Was he a sheep walking into a tiger's den? Do I really have to look for it? The old man looked conflicted. Did he really have to look for the cat? Back then, he had finally escaped from the cat palace while it was asleep. Now he had come back on his own. Was it too cheap? Why didn't it come to me? The old man was a little indignant. Why don't you come to me? If you come to me, I'll go back. There's more or less a way out. If you don't come to me, I'll go back on my own. How embarrassing would that be? The old man was none other than the cat tree. Recently, it felt that life could not go on. 2 days ago, it hid on a small island. Who knew that a powerhouse would awaken near the island the next day? When he woke up and saw it, his eyes were frighteningly bright. It had just awakened. Of course, it needed origin energy to stabilize its origin. Cat fruit was famous. Everyone knew about it. It was rare to meet a cat tree that came out alone. Who else would it eat if not him? The cat tree ran for a long time. Taking advantage of the other party's awakening and unstable realm, It finally escaped. However, it really had no other choice. Who knew how many more powerhouses were awakening in this sea? Running away like this was not a solution. With a dilemma, the cat tree soon appeared by the seaside. As soon as it appeared, many rank nines appeared on the coastline. Gua Shangquan shouted, "Who are you?" This is the human territory, a strategic location. If you want to go to the catacombs restricted area, go through the original bounded grounds and go through Mount Royal Sea. Humans were not so tyrannical that they would not let anyone pass. There were many powerhouses now. Humans were only defending their own area. If the powerhouses in the sea wanted to go to the restricted area, they had to go through the outer area. Humans had also released the area where the bounded grounds were. Powerhouses could go through there. The cat tree was a little conflicted. He did not move. At this moment, Gua Shengquan and the rest were a little more vigilant. He shouted again, "Come, report your name. If there's anything important, we'll report to the king and give you a reply." 8 or 9 out of 10 people who dared to walk the Forbidden Sea alone were desperate. If ordinary rank 8 or 9 martial artists walked the Forbidden Sea, they might not even walk 1,000 miles before being torn apart by the demons. Since this person was here, because the Forbidden Sea had an aura-isolating effect, it was difficult for them to distinguish the person's strength. This time, the cat tree was no longer conflicted. It would be troublesome if there was a misunderstanding and the king that killed the saint came. It wanted to go back with a low profile. It did not want to meet the king first, because it was said that the king was greedy. He wanted everything he saw. If he saw himself, he was afraid that he would be eaten. It was best to find the cat first. Thinking of this, the cat tree smiled and said, "Don't misunderstand. I'm a human friend. I'm under the command of the Gray Cat Emperor. I'm an old servant of the Gray Emperor." When he said this, Gua Shengquan was shocked. "Cat Guardian, Captain," the corner of the cat tree's mouth twitched. What was he thinking? No, I'm not the chief." The cat tree hurriedly explained, "I'm an old servant of the Cat Palace. I heard that the Gray Emperor is living in the human world. I'm here to look for the Gray Emperor." As he spoke, he was almost in tears. "It's been 3,000 years. I haven't seen the Gray Emperor for 3,000 years. I miss him. I only found out recently that the Gray Emperor is actually in the human world. If I knew this, I would have looked for the Gray Emperor a long time ago." Gua Shengquan and the others looked at each other in surprise. The Cat Palace really had servants? Gua Shengquan did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly said, "Senior, please wait for a moment. We'll send someone to inform Senior Cat immediately." Okay. Tell the Gray Emperor that I've been thinking about returning to the Cat Palace day and night for 3,000 years. It had been 3,000 years since it escaped the Cat Palace. 3,000 years ago, it was around the time the Heavenly Hound died in battle. At that time, the cat was asleep and it ran away. It had been looking for the Gray Emperor for 3,000 years. The cat tree thought frantically. "I didn't run for 3,000 years. I was just lost. I always wanted to go home, but I couldn't find it. I went to the Quichong Mountain and waited for a long time. A long, long time." The cat tree thought wildly. "Gray Emperor, I've been waiting for you to wake up. It's a pity you didn't wake up. I had no choice but to take root in the catacombs." The cat tree continued thinking. Magic City. The cat lazily turned its body and smacked its lips. Who would believe that? However, there was food. So what if he came back? Soon someone came. Without waiting for the person to speak, the cat yawned and said, "Let it come." The person did not say much. There were many humans in the cat clan. Its servants. Although they had to be reported, they were not too worried. Besides, there was a saint in Magic City. The cat had just finished speaking when an old man with white hair and beard stepped down from the sky. It was not the cat tree, but Skywood. "Cat, is the cat tree back?" Skywood seemed excited. "Everything returns to one. Fong Ping had lied to it last time. The ignorant and incompetent cat did not know about this cultivation method at all, but the cat tree knew. Otherwise, this impasse realm tree would not have run around so easily. It could not even be seen. The cat glanced at it and muttered, "Yeah, big blockhead, why are you happier than me?" Skywood laughed. "I'm in a better mood now that I've met my kind." "It's not like it's your kind," the cat said lazily. The cat tree grew from a seed. "You didn't grow from a seed," Skywood frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, he said, "Cat, speaking of this, I have some doubts. I'd like to ask." "I don't want to say." Tianmu was speechless, but he still said, "Back then His Majesty opened the passage to the 9 heavens and moved the herb garden outside the 9 heavens. I remember that back then His Majesty wholeheartedly wanted to cultivate the strongest demon plant. I wonder if he succeeded?" "How would I know?" The cat was a little angry. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws. "That old man is too bad. He moved all the delicious food away. I can't enter the 9th heaven." Skywood raised its eyebrows. "Can't enter? But according to what I know, the Emperor, Spirit Emperor, secretly opened up a passageway for you to go in and look for food." "Nonsense!" The cat denied. "There's no such thing." Skywood laughed. "How can that be? I still remember that day. The Emperor God came to water me and scolded me. Cough, cough. Later, I think he moved the herb garden. Even the Emperor, Spirit Emperor, doesn't know where it is." The cat looked at it innocently. "Don't talk nonsense if there's no such thing. Who went to the 9th heaven to steal food? Even the big dog doesn't know about this. Besides, I don't think I've been there more than a few times. I just want to know if the plan to cultivate the monster plant was successful." Skywood said softly, "If it wasn't successful, I still have a chance." "Cat, you know what chance it is. But if it was successful, I'm afraid I won't have a chance." The cat muttered, "I don't know. The Emperor God is very bad. He also set up a big formation outside the 9th heaven. I can't go in, so I wandered around outside and ate some not-so-delicious food. But he set it up so tightly, maybe he succeeded." Skywood's expression changed slightly, and it said nervously, "After the Beast Emperor proves his Tao, the monster clan will no longer have an emperor. Unlike humans who have 8 sovereigns and 4 emperors, the monster clan only has a beast emperor. The monster plant clan might be able to give birth to an emperor this time, but if the Emperor God really succeeded—" The cat said indifferently, "That has nothing to do with me. Cat, you can't say that." Skywood struggled. "I'm an emperor. It's easy for you to drink emperor-level drinks and eat emperor-level fruits. Why would I mistreat you? But if the monster plant cultivated by the Emperor God becomes the emperor of the monster plants, you may not have a chance." The ash cat looked at it with a lifeless face. Did this big block of wood just sell itself out? "Then what do you want?" "I don't know how to become an emperor." Skywood wanted to say something, but stopped. After a while it said, if I encounter this monster plant in the future, can you ask the human king to help me kill this monster? And although the cat tree is a monster plant, it only has the strength of a true god. I'm a little worried." It was worried that the cat tree's return might have some unexpected consequences. The monster plant had no emperor. This era was the era of the human clan, and also the era of the monster plant clan. There was a high possibility that a monster plant emperor would be born in this era. But now, this possibility was full of uncertainty. Skywood needed more help. The cat muttered. Everyone wanted to become an emperor. Even this big tree wanted to become an emperor. It was so boring. As it was thinking, the cat smiled. It was back. There was delicious food. Chapter 1168. Skytharch. A mournful cry rang out. Feng Yuan, who was practicing martial arts in the distance, trembled. What a fake cry, so fake. Who was it? Feng Yuan turned around and felt that it was a little painful to the eyes. A skinny old man's eyes darted around. The next moment he suddenly flew over, hugging the ash cat's leg and wailing. It was miserable. He did not care that there were outsiders present. "Sky the Arch, I want to go home. I've been looking for it for 3,000 years." The ash cat kicked its leg, wanting to kick the shameless guy away. However, the cat tree hugged its leg tightly and cried, 3,000 years! 3,000 years ago, Sky the Arch, you were in a deep sleep. I was ignorant and left you, and then I couldn't find my home anymore. The ash cat continued kicking. This tree was crazy. It hugged its leg and refused to let go. Let go! The ash cat glared a little angry. It was still hugging. Why was this tree so ugly now? It used to be a tree, but now it was in human form. It was too ugly. You know that I like to be chubby, but you have to be so skinny. Who's disgusting? The cat tree let go, embarrassed. Only then did it notice Heavenly Wood. Although Heavenly Wood was a saint, and it would definitely be wary of him in the outside world, here the cat tree did not care. What was a saint? Back in the day, what had it not seen? It had seen the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors. It had also seen most of the heavenly kings, and it often saw those saints in the cat palace. A mere saint, the cat tree did not care about Heavenly Wood. I already have a master. So what if I'm a saint? How dare this old guy laugh at me? The ash cat ignored it and stared at it for a while, muttering, "You're so skinny. Did you bear a lot of fruits all these years? I've been hungry for years. Give it to me." "Sky the Arch!" The ash cat's ears twitched, and it said unhappily, "Don't shout. It's so annoying. You didn't talk before. Why do you talk now? Also, you're too ugly. How did you transform into this?" The cat tree looked aggrieved. "I'm afraid that I'll be targeted if I transform too well. Is it ugly? Do I have to be like this old fellow beside me and transform into this ghostly appearance, making me look like an immortal? Don't you know that once the battle starts, these seemingly powerful fellows will be the first to be killed?" Thinking about it, the cat tree quickly took out more than 10 cat fruits, as if there were more than 10 fat cats sleeping soundly. He grinned and said, "Sangdi, this is what I left for you. That's it." The ash cat patted it with its tail. It wasn't too happy, but it didn't stop it from eating. It picked up the cat fruit and started eating. As it ate, it slapped its tail in enjoyment. Finally, there was food. There's still some left, but this old servant is afraid that Emperor Song will eat too much, and there won't be any more next time, right? You can get married next time. Cat tree morning, you said it was easy, but how could it be so easy? Fortunately, the cat did not continue the topic. It asked while eating, "Why did you run away back then?" The cat tree said carefully, "Back then, when you were asleep, the celestial Darch went to the cat palace and asked me to bear some cat fruits. When I left, I forgot to close the door. I was just about to transform, so I prepared to go out and transform. The big dog came back to life, did you know?" I know. The celestial Thearka's resurrection. I'm happy from the bottom of my heart." The cat looked at it disdainfully. "Who are you trying to fool? Who doesn't know you're afraid of the big dog?" As they were talking, a huge monster walked over. The cat tree's eyes widened, and its whole body trembled. It was so scared that it was about to foam at the mouth. Feng Yuan and Heavenly Wood were dumbfounded. The Jiao also widened its eyes. "What's wrong?" The Jiao looked at itself up and down. "What's wrong?" "I came over to take a look. Why did this guy vomit when he saw me? Am I that ugly? Is he looking down on me? That's not a big dog." The cat felt embarrassed. "You just said you were happy and now you're so scared. Also, what's wrong with the puppy? Why did it turn into a big dog? Why are all the humans and monsters I know normal?" At this time, the cat tree also felt something was wrong. It gulped and looked at the Jiao, cursing in its heart. "You scared me. Almost scared me to death. I really thought the celestial Darch had returned." The cat ignored it and muttered, "Right, when I was sleeping, I think someone came to borrow something and took away the cat palace. Do you know who? I forgot about it. Its cat palace was lost for a long time. It remembered that it had been lent out, but it didn't remember to whom. But to borrow something when it was asleep, it should be someone familiar, right? The cat palace was a divine artifact. The cat palace, the cat tree looked at the cat. Don't you remember? After thinking for a while, the cat tree said carefully, I was lost at that time, but I heard that someone took the cat palace to participate in the Demon Emperor dynasty's battle. Who? The cat really didn't know about this. It only remembered that it had promised someone in a daze and regretted it the moment it woke up. Its home was gone. When it woke up, it was already wandering in the wilderness, sleeping thousands of meters underground. That wicked ghost had directly moved its home away. The cat tree hurriedly said, I'm not too sure about the specifics. I didn't go to watch the battle. It was too dangerous. I heard some of the powerhouses who participated in the battle mentioned that it might be Miss Her? The cat was surprised. Is it her? She's not dead? I didn't see her before. That little brat is too much. Why did she move my cat palace? The cat was upset. Was it that little girl, who borrowed it? That was too much. I was sleeping soundly and she actually threw me out. I'm so angry, but it was probably her. Ordinary people couldn't enter the cat palace, and it would wake up if there was real danger. It wasn't like it was just lent out in a daze. Was she beaten to death? The cat was puzzled. Usually people who borrow my things are beaten to death, the cat said sheepishly. I don't know about that. After all, they're all powerhouses, and Miss Seer is also very powerful. She's powerful? The cat muttered, I don't think so. She used to steal my food, and I beat her until she cried many times. Dark history. Hearing the cat's dark history, Fang Yuan, who was not far away, was disdainful. The cat was so bad to bully a little girl. She didn't think too much about it. The little girl was now more than 10,000 years old. Beside her, Tianmu couldn't help but interrupt. Is Miss also alive? I'm not too sure about that. I've seen her a few times in the past, and among the descendants of the emperor, Miss has the best temper. The cat said casually, Of course, in Ling Chen's palace, I'm the most favored. She has to be at the back. So of course she has to be more obedient. He didn't even blush when he said that. Tianmu was speechless. How dare you say that? You've eaten up all of Ling Chen's assets. Ling Chen's bloodline doesn't have many supporters, unlike the earthly sovereign, who has people from the 36 saints and the 8 kings. But Ling Chen doesn't. Since the powerhouses support you, you have to give them some benefits. But 80% of the good things in Ling Chen's palace were eaten by this cat, and the rest were given to the disciples. As for the outside world, don't count on it. Heavenly kings and saints also needed resources. If you didn't get any benefits, why should others support you? Moreover, Ling Chen had beaten up many people for this cat. Plus, he wasn't close to men, and most of the powerhouses were men. In the end, this bloodline had the least powerhouses. Tianmu didn't say anything. He smiled and said, Miss Zier's talent is not bad and she has never died. If she were alive, I'm afraid she would also have a chance of becoming a heavenly king. I don't know. The cat thought for a moment and said, At that time she was at the overlord level? I don't really remember, but she was quite weak. After saying that, he asked curiously, Why did she want to fight earthly sovereign? The cat shook its head. It didn't know that either. The cat wasn't too interested. It only knew who had borrowed its cat palace. It couldn't remember before, but now it knew. At this time, Tianmu interrupted again. Cat tree, do you know that all things return to one technique? The cat glanced at it with a proud face. The wretched old man's proud expression was obviously disgusting. Tianmu's old face twitched as he looked at the cat. The cat said lazily, If you know, then teach it. This is the big tree from before, the tree that ate that nest of birds. Tianmu looked at it. You denied it before, but you're not denying it now? The cat seemed to know that it had said something wrong, so it hurriedly shut its mouth and said quickly, It's that tree, do you know it? Only then did the cat know who this fellow was. The Tianmu that became a demon. No wonder its aura felt a little similar to its own. At this moment, it said reluctantly, "All right then." Tianmu heaved a sigh of relief. It really knew it. This was great. His body could become smaller, unlike now, which was incomparably huge. If a war broke out, he couldn't hide even if he wanted to. It would be too conspicuous. These demons were chatting. In the sea, Fang Ping walked out of the closed-door training ground again. These few days he had been honing himself and stabilizing his realm. Although there was no obvious improvement in his strength, he felt much better than before. As soon as he walked out of the closed-door training ground, Fang Ping received the news. The cat's servant had come looking for the cat. Desperate realm. Fang Ping thought for a while. Desperate realm. Could it be that tree? The cat tree came back on its own. Fang Ping had always wanted to look for the cat tree, but he had too many things to do and really did not have the time. Fang Ping did not need the cat fruit much, but it was good stuff that could stabilize the source world. Fang Ping could produce origin energy, plus 2 saint tokens could stabilize the source world. But the origin energy that he provided to others was very difficult to stabilize the source world, and the consumption was also very high. The cat fruit also had its own uniqueness. The cat fruit was secondary. Fang Ping actually still had some things to ask the cat tree. This fellow had hidden in the catacombs for so many years. It was not like he did nothing. Fang family, happy and harmonious. The cat tree flattered the cat, finally coaxing the cat. However, the next moment, the cat tree's expression changed. Behind him, someone smiled faintly and said, "Is this the cat tree that ran away?" Someone was approaching him without a sound. Very soon, the cat tree's expression changed again. He knew who was coming. He turned around hurriedly and said, "Cat tree greets Lord King." Fang Ping smiled, sizing him up. Although the cat tree was an old man, Fang Ping's eyes lit up as if he had seen a beauty. The cat tree shuddered in fear. He felt like he was going to be eaten by this fellow. This fellow's notoriety was no better than Tengu's. "Sit down and talk." Fang Ping pressed his hands. The cat tree looked at him helplessly. There was no place to sit. Should he sit on the ground? Well, trees grew on the ground. The cat tree had no choice but to sit down. In an instant, he was a lot shorter than Fang Ping. Fang Ping laughed. This tree was interesting. Fang Ping used his mentality, and a chair moved over. He sat on the chair, looked at it, and smiled. "Cat tree, or should I say Blue Emperor?" No. I just miss Lord Cat too much. That's why I call myself Blue Emperor." Fang Ping pressed his hands again, smiled, and said, "I heard that you can bear cat fruit every 3 years. You've left the cat palace for 3,000 years, right? That's 1,000 cat fruits." The cat tree's face turned purple. "That was when you were rank 9. Now that you've reached the pinnacle, you get 1 fruit a year. That's 3,000 cat fruits. Fang Mao, you get 1,000, I'll get 1,000, and we'll keep the rest for ourselves." The cat's eyes widened. That much? It didn't know. The cat looked at the cat tree with anticipation. Were there so many cat fruits? The cat tree wanted to cry, but had no tears. It explained hurriedly, "Lord King, you've misunderstood. When you're in a desperate situation, it takes even longer. The cat fruits in the past were far less effective than the ones now. Lord Cat should have noticed this. Now, it takes at least 10 years to bear a cat fruit. I'm also cultivating now. Actually, sometimes when I'm in closed-door cultivation, I don't care about the results. After all these years, less than 100 cat fruits have been born." Fang Ping said lightly, "Is that so? If it's so precious, why would you give it away so casually? King Pine has it, Li Zhu has it. I think it's everywhere. If it's so little, would you give it away so casually?" Fang Ping came to find it for the cat fruit. His main concern was why the cat tree would give it away. He found one at King Pine's place. Later, Li Zhu gave one to him to redeem Li Yi. Where did the cat fruit come from? As soon as he said that, the cat glared at the cat tree, its big face full of displeasure. That was its. The cat tree had given its cat fruit to someone else. The cat tree looked bitter. Meeting a king man was much more difficult to deal with than the cat. The king man might be young, but he was not easy to fool. As long as the cat had something to eat, it would be fine. It had probably forgotten about those things, but Fong Ping had not. Since it was back, the cat tree did not hide anything. It said bitterly, "Lord Man-King, you've misunderstood. I was forced to do it. King Pine's cat fruit was obtained from the Guardian Palace. I live in the Guardian Palace, and I'm also from the Monster Plant clan. Those demons would sometimes trade some treasures with each other. I've also traded a few. No one knows the cat fruit. Those who know it are all ancient powerhouses. As for King Li Zhu's, it wasn't obtained from the Guardian Palace. He came to my place of residence and demanded it by force." Demanded by force? Fong Ping raised his eyebrows. "He asked for one. Exactly 10. The cat tree wanted to cry too. I didn't want to give it to him at first, but Li Zhu's aura burst out and intimidated me. I had no choice but to provide him with the cat fruit. What did he want the cat fruit for? I don't know. What's his strength? At least the Saint Realm. When did this happen? About 2,000 years ago, Fong Ping's eyes lit up. When did this happen? About 2,000 years ago. The cat tree explained. It happened after the war between the North and the South. Li Zhu is actually older than everyone thinks. The outside world thinks that he rose to power a few hundred years ago. In fact, he rose to power 2,000 years ago. It's also the period when the sects were destroyed and the catacombs for majestic chambers were formed. Fong Ping murmured, "It's him." This was him. There were many meanings. The God-forging envoy said that in every era there would be someone who rose to power. However, during the era of the catacombs for majestic chambers, only the Life King rose to power. Li Zhu. Fong Ping actually suspected that he was the reincarnation of a powerhouse. But now, if Li Zhu was already very powerful 2,000 years ago, then he might be the powerhouse who rose to power during the era of the catacombs for majestic chambers. Much stronger than the Life King. What happened to him after that? The cat tree thought for a while and said, uncertainly, 2,000 years ago, when he came to find me, there was actually something unusual. His aura was actually not very stable. Besides, there seemed to be 2 auras, and the chi of origin was a little chaotic. Your humble servant guessed that he might be fighting for something, the cat tree said, and said, after that he should have died for a period of time. The Li Zhu that you humans know might not be fake. Maybe after he died his strength declined, so he started again, and that's why there was the Li Zhu who rose to power. Fong Ping's eyes flashed. Li Zhu. This fellow really had to pay more attention to him. A very scary fellow. Also, he could not guess what this fellow was thinking. He more or less knew what other people were thinking. But this Li Zhu fellow was really complicated. He wanted the cat fruit, probably because his origin was injured, and he had no choice but to take the cat fruit to restore his source world. Fong Ping said, and quickly added, previously he said that he was injured. Maybe his injury had not healed, and he had no choice but to lie low for a period of time to recover. Becoming a lord was probably beneficial to his recovery, but he did not want to be constantly watched, so he pretended to be injured. At this point, Fong Ping said, there's another problem. During the North-South War, some of the mounts defected and escaped. But after that, I don't seem to have found these mounts. I've asked people, there are actually some ancient demons in the 2 demon royal halls, but they disappeared without a trace. The time when they disappeared was about 1,000 years ago, which is when unquestionable Jian barged in. Were they killed by unquestionable Jian, or did they hide? During the North-South War, many demon mounts defected and escaped. They should not have died, but now, Fong Ping did not seem to have met any of them. The cat tree had lived for a long time, and had experienced that era, so he should know something. Fong Ping was very interested in this batch of mounts. During the North-South War, these were the mounts of the blessed Grotto Heavens powerhouses. Among them, many demons in Kwokang Mountain defected and escaped. The cat tree said sheepishly, "About that period, actually, I don't know much. At that time, Master woke up, cough, cough." Anyway, the meaning was clear. At that time, the cat woke up and stayed in Kwokang Mountain. Actually, it did not dare to show its face. During the North-South War, the cat fell asleep, and it hid for a long time before coming out. The cat went into a deep sleep during the North-South War. Don't you know what happened after that? The cat tree looked at the cat carefully. Seeing that the cat was still eating its fruit, it breathed a sigh of relief, saying carefully, "I know a little." After the North-South War, the catacombs rose. The 4 majestic dynasties were established, and the sects were destroyed. Those demons that defected and escaped actually appeared for a period of time. Some of them joined the demon clan royal court, and some entered the Forbidden Sea. At that time, I also entered the Guardian dynasty and came into contact with one of the defected monsters a few times. In the beginning, these demons were still quite active, but 1,000 years ago, after the demon emperor entered the catacombs, these demons almost all disappeared. Get to the point. Are they dead or alive? They should be alive. The cat tree said hurriedly, "This batch of demons might have been taken away by a powerhouse and hidden. They're used as a surprise attack." "Who?" Fong Ping raised his eyebrows. "Unquestionable, Jian? Probably not." The cat tree thought for a while and said, "It might be someone from the extreme path. Lord King, the extreme path might have a traitor." "What?" Fong Ping was surprised. The cat tree said softly, "There might be a traitor in the extreme path. The person who broke the North Sea Venerable Emperor's beast-taming technique might be someone from the extreme path, because only people from the extreme path would be extremely familiar with some of the North Sea Venerable Emperor's techniques. Only those people would be able to control the beasts and make them work for him. However, it was a bit chaotic at that time. The divine sect was involved, the demon emperor was also involved, and there were also some hidden powerhouses involved. Whether it's true or not, I'm not too sure. King Kuan might know, because that person should have cooperated with King Kuan back then. If King Kuan doesn't know, then he might have cooperated with the demon emperor dynasty. The cat tree had lived for so many years, and it was considered shrewd. It said immediately, Master was clearly close to the North Sea Venerable Emperor back then, but later on he became close to the demon emperor. I think this person might be related to the demon emperor, or even someone who arranged some things. Fong Ping looked at the cat and said solemnly, "You were clearly on good terms with Gong Zhuanzi back then. How did you end up hooking up with the demon emperor?" The cat looked innocent. What did he mean by hooking up? What did he mean by that? I don't know either. The cat felt wronged. Gong Zhuanzi wasn't fun, and he didn't fish with me either. He only knew how to cultivate in seclusion all day long, or he would feed the demons. I wanted to eat him, but he was so stingy, only giving me a little. After that, he took in disciples, and I had even less time. I met Little Sword, so I played with him. That simple. The old cat muttered, "Probably." But Little Sword seems to know what I like. As it said that, it added, "Little Sword is actually a good person." Anyway, that's what I think, but after he broke through to the peak, he changed a little. Liar in the beginning. I don't think he lied to me. It still explained to Unquestionable Jen that Unquestionable Jen did not lie to it in the beginning. But later, maybe he really did lie to it. The cat vaguely felt this point later on. The Unquestionable Jen at that time was a little different. Fong Ping did not say anything more, connecting some clues in his mind. There was someone behind Unquestionable Jen. It could be an extreme path disciple, or it could be Hong Yu. Hong Yu, Unquestionable Jen, extreme path disciple, King Kuan. Some of these powerhouses were connected, but Fong Ping had not thought of the key point yet. As for who that extreme path disciple was, whether it was Lin Hai, Fang Ping felt that the possibility was not high. Lin Hai had just been revived. These guys, making it so complicated. What are they trying to do? Fang Ping cursed in his heart. This matter was very important. He felt that even the extreme path venerable emperors might be in some people's schemes. Would old Yao be fine? Old Yao won't trust those extreme path disciples easily. He's not that stupid. I'm just afraid. Fang Ping's head hurt. He was not too sure where old Yao and the rest were now. He was worried that these guys would be plotted against. Some of the things that the cat tree said made him feel that other than these forces on the surface in the three realms, there might be a big hand controlling some things in the dark. When I become a heavenly king, I'll drag them out and beat them to death. Fang Ping cursed in a low voice. The cat tree shuddered. It was so scared. It always felt that it would be very dangerous in the human world. It was still thinking. Fang Ping exhaled and said, "Forget it. Let's not care about this for now. Cat tree, human rank 9. I'll provide 1 cat fruit to each of you as the fee for protecting you. That's it. I have something to do. I'll leave first." Fang Ping tore the space apart and left with a whoosh. The cat tree was stunned. Human. Rank 9. Hundreds, almost 1,000, right? Chapter 1169. Global High Martial Arts. I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to be brave. I'll take a day off. Currently in the middle of typing. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1170. The Forbidden Sea was vast and boundless. No matter how far you went, you couldn't seem to see the end of the sea. The 33 immortal islands were known as all the forces in the sea. However, the furthest of the 33 immortal islands was less than 500,000 miles away from the coastline. It sounded extremely far, but for powerhouses, emperor-level powerhouses could easily tear space and travel 1,000 miles in one step. Hundreds of thousands of miles. If you didn't care about the cost, you could reach it quickly. Saints and heavenly kings were even faster. Some people once went deep into the sea, but it was extremely dangerous, and it was still difficult to see the end. On the day of the cat tree's return, the day the catacombs rebuilt the heavenly court. Deep in the sea, an island that looked like a fairyland was faintly discernible above the sea. On the immortal island, birds were singing and flowers were fragrant. Birds and beasts wandered freely on the island. On the huge immortal island, from time to time, some people could be seen flying into the sky and burrowing into the ground, like immortals very free. An undiscovered overseas immortal island. An immortal island that was not among the 33 immortal islands. In the center of the island, in a colorful land, there were pavilions, small bridges, and flowing water. Fish swam in the water, very comfortable. Leisurely, the surrounding small lakes rippled. In a pavilion, a young man was fishing with a fishing rod. Behind him, 2 young women, one holding a fan, gently fanning the man. A person was brewing tea, and the fragrance of the tea overflowed. The young man smiled, staring at the water, suddenly holding the fishing rod in his hand. The next moment, a small golden fish was caught out of the water. At this moment, footsteps came from behind. "Greetings, young master." The 2 maids bowed, slightly to greet. The person who came was also a young man, looking young, with some arrogance on his face. Young, he was really young, not the old antique's youthful appearance. "Master." The young man who had just arrived shouted, standing behind the fishing young man with a respectful face. The fishing young man did not reply, took back the fishing rod, and put the small golden fish into the bamboo basket beside him. After doing all this, he turned around and said with a smile, "Death is here, Sit." The fishing young man said with a smile, "You are lucky I just caught a spirit dragon fish. I will cook it myself later. I guarantee you will swallow your tongue." The young man hurriedly smiled and said, "Master is personally cooking. This disciple is indeed lucky. Master hasn't cooked for a long time." The fisherman laughed and gestured for him to sit down. The maidservant began to pour tea. The fragrance of the tea permeated the air. Spiritual chi swept out, forming a small spiritual chi vortex in midair. The fishing man frowned slightly, and the expression of the servant girl who was pouring tea changed slightly. Seeing this, the young man Yunmia hurriedly said, "Let me do it!" After saying those words, he stood up and personally poured tea for the fisherman. This time, the vortex of spiritual energy in the air dissipated, not the slightest bit exposed. The spiritual energy was restrained, and the tea in the teacup was golden yellow, just like ordinary tea. The fishing man nodded slightly and said with a light smile, "That's right. Drinking tea was also a form of cultivation. The path of cultivation is ever-changing, yet it doesn't deviate from the core. The strength of one's realm is not important. For cultivators, the strength of power, the strength of the flesh, the strength of the spiritual sense, these are the basics. Basically, the first is the control of power. The second is the combination of cultivation methods. The third is weapons and equipment. The fourth is battle experience, courage, and strategy." The fishing man still had a smile on his face. "When Yunmia poured tea for you, your power didn't leak out, and the spiritual energy in the spiritual tea was controlled within. That's enough for you to master the control of power." Yunmia said humbly, "Master, you flatter me. I'm still lacking in many areas." "Not bad." The fishing man picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then he waved his hand lightly, and the two maidservants bowed and left. Their steps were light, and they didn't make any sound. After they left, the fishing man smiled faintly. In the era of great competition, everyone is fighting. The human world is fighting, and the land is fighting. Everyone is fighting. Cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't move forward, you will fall behind. 8,000 years have passed, the fishing man sighed softly, and his eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. He said slowly, "It's time to end it." Yunmia listened attentively. Seeing that the man had stopped talking, he said softly, "Master, is this the real great era?" "Yes." The fishing man stood up, looked outside the island, and murmured, "Every time it feels like a great era is coming. In the age of chaos, when the chaotic heavenly king was born, I thought the great era was coming. In the era of the demon emperor dynasty, when the dynasty was unified, I also thought the great era was coming. In the era of the 100 schools of thought, I thought the great era was coming again. But they were all wrong." The man sighed, shook his head, and said, "In those times there were people who rose, but they didn't reach that point. This time is different. Those who should have appeared have appeared." The man chuckled and said, "The subduing heavenly king who has been in hibernation for many years, Hangyu who has been hiding for many years, the fallen heavenly hound, Sherpa who died back then, the powerful cat palace chief who died before the heavenly realm was destroyed, Li Zhu who has been hiding in the dynasty, unquestionable Jian who has been hiding in the human world. Other than them, there are the reincarnations of the 4 emperors, the martial King Zhang Tao of the human world, the current King Fong Ping of the human world, the heavenly beloved cat." The man named one person after another and said emotionally, "The 3 realms have been created since the origin, and the essence is in this era. If it isn't this time, there won't be a next time. In this era, someone will definitely become an emperor or even create a new Tao." The man's last 4 words caused the void to tremble. Yunmia's mouth was dry. Create a new Tao. 30,000 years ago, the Tao of Origin was created and Chu Wu ended. The Tao of Origin was the only Tao in this era. They were all going for the Tao of Origin. The Tao of Origin became the only Tao in the 3 realms, the strongest Tao. Everyone wanted to prove their Tao. But now his master said that someone might create a new Tao. Each Tao was stronger than the last. If it wasn't for the fact that the Tao of Origin was stronger than Chu Wu, it wouldn't have replaced Chu Wu as the only Tao in the 3 realms, and the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors wouldn't have been born. However, since the Tao was created 30,000 years ago, until 20,000 years ago, the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors proved their Tao. After that, there was peace for more than 10,000 years, and there were no new emperors in the 3 realms. 8,000 years ago, the heavenly realm fell, and a new chapter began. The 3 realms went from prosperity to decline, and it entered a chaotic state of war. Master, is there really a Tao more powerful than the Tao of origin? Yunye's mouth was dry, and he said, the Tao of origin has no end. I feel that the Tao of origin is already extremely powerful. Does this new Tao exist? Where there is a will, there is a will. The fishing man chuckled. During the Chuwu period, no one thought there was a Tao more powerful than the Tao of beginning martial arts. Those Chuwu leaders were all heroes. But during the transition period between the Chuwu and the 3 realms, the heroes fought for supremacy. Some rising stars defeated those Chuwu leaders. The Chuwu declined, and it became a thing of the past. The man exclaimed, during that era, the 9 sovereigns were still young and inexperienced. They fought everywhere, defeated the Chuwu, and became emperors. The deity emperor defeated the Chuwu martial god and became emperors in the land realm. The East sovereign defeated the Chuwu sword god and broke the Chuwu sword. The sword god's sword was destroyed and the East sovereign died. The human sovereign defeated the Chuwu sword god and killed him to prove his Tao in the human realm. The earthly sovereign. One by one, the man described the battles of the emperors. He exclaimed, first, there were the 9 emperors. Then, there was the Emperor of Heaven Reverse, who rose on the Chua land. After reaching the golden body stage, he began to cultivate origin energy. He wanted to become the 2nd elementary martial artist. Unfortunately, he did not become the 2nd one. Yunye murmured, those emperors and celestial emperors are dragons and phoenixes among men. You are wrong. The man shook his head. They are heroes, heaven's prides. But that is fate. Chaotic Heaven King, Hongyu, Li Zhu, subduing Heaven King, are they really not as good as them? Not necessarily. But have they become emperors? Have they reached the peak of the Tao? No. The man answered his own question and sighed, because the timing is not right. Due to bad luck, none of them succeeded. Therefore, they lay dormant, waiting for the next opportunity, for the next battle. If the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors could prove their Tao at that time, then next time someone can do it. The man looked at Yunye again and said with a smile, today the time has come. This time, everyone will come back. Fight. Fight for a chance. Fight for their lives. No one is willing to accept that they will fail. Why can the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors do it, but not them? They are not weaker than the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors. Therefore, they are not willing. This time, they will give it their all. Master, you also have a chance. Yunye looked at the man and said softly, are you going to come out this time? The man smiled. I will. I will also take a gamble. Not only me, but you and your fellow apprentices will also have a chance. The man's eyes were deep as he drank the tea in one gulp. I have waited for a long time. I've also done many tests and experiments. Annihilation, your senior apprentice brother. There was someone who fought against the geniuses of this generation, but he was no match for them and died in battle in the 3 realms. Someone replaced him and became the generation's hero, the era's favorite. At first, I wanted to replace him, but then I realized there is no need for that. The man said calmly, you can also kill the current generation's prides, gather the invincible momentum, gather the heaven and earth's providence, and become invincible. I've already received news that in this generation, many seeds have emerged from the human world. Seeds of supreme experts. Martial King Zhang Tao, a heavenly king. Human King Fangping, a true god, had the combat strength of a sage. These 2 are the generation's peerless seeds. There is also the longevity swordsman, Li Changshen. If the 2 of them are the 9 sovereigns, he is the new generation's 4 emperors candidate. Yunya, this time, it is time for you to graduate. First kill Li Changsheng, then kill Maple King, Huai King. Destroy overseas immortal islands Luoyu. Yuwuhua, Long Xian kill North Emperors Ling Shao. Gather the invincible momentum. Fight Hades, defeat him. Then fight Human King, kill him, then kill Martial King. The man looked at his disciple, his eyes deep. If you kill Martial King, you will become the strongest. Master and disciple, we will fight the three realms again, and this generation will achieve Tao. Yun Ye swallowed and said softly, Master, the four emperors, reincarnations. The man closed his eyes and thought for a moment, then sighed. As a master, I teach and solve doubts. I have learned the Tao and the four emperors' teachings, so I have some ties, but the fight for Tao is extremely cruel. The four emperors have not grown up yet. When they grow up, I'll personally make a move and settle things with them. Yun Ye did not ask further, but said hesitantly, I have only just entered the emperor rank. Once I kill the others, Human King Fong Ping will have the combat strength of a sage. Emperor rank? The man chuckled. How can others understand my bloodline? I have learned the Tao from heaven, destroying the arch. In terms of combat strength, heaven destroying the arch is stronger than heaven destroying the arch. But he has always lost and never won. Heaven destroying Thearka's body is so strong that even Chu Wu leader might not be able to defeat him. Yet, he has always lost to heaven destroying the arch. Do you know why? Yun Ye pondered. Master once said that the extreme Tao has obvious flaws. Even the four emperors are the same. Although heaven destroying Thearka's body is strong, his spiritual consciousness is weak. Normal martial artists can't make use of this flaw. But heaven destroying the arch has always won because of his powerful spiritual consciousness. He forcefully sealed heaven destroying Thearka's origin. Without the origin, heaven destroying the arch will naturally lose every battle. That's right. The man smiled. This is the strength of heaven destroying Thearka's bloodline. Of course, it is not easy to seal the origin. The 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors are powerhouses of the same rank. Among the 13 powerhouses, heaven destroying the arch can only seal heaven destroying the arch. Although the 9 sovereigns' spiritual consciousness is not as strong as heaven destroying Thearka's, it is average and has no shortcomings. It is difficult for the others to seal heaven destroying the arch, but heaven destroying the arch is heaven destroying Thearka's natural enemy. When the two of them fight, heaven destroying the arch will always lose. Heaven destroying the arch is not the weakest powerhouse among the 13, but he has never defeated heaven destroying the arch. This is probably his biggest regret in life. Hearing this, Yun Ye hurriedly said, Then can I seal the King of Man? Fong Ping is a rising star. His origin is only at the early stage of true God. No matter what is special about him, his spiritual consciousness is not as strong as yours. You are confident that you can seal his origin. The man looked at Yun Ye. However, he has a 9th refined golden body and has the power of a sage. His foundation is also very strong. The reason why I put him last is to remind you that even if you seal his origin, his combat strength will not be weak. He might be close to the strength of an emperor. Remember, it is difficult for you to seal someone whose spiritual consciousness is stronger than yours. If his spiritual consciousness is not as strong as yours, the chances of sealing his origin are very high. However, you have to be careful and think about the consequences of failure. Don't be blindly confident. Yun Ye nodded. My spiritual consciousness is much stronger than ordinary emperors. It is comparable to those sages. I am not afraid of fighting with ordinary sages. It is just that the King of Man has the power to kill sages, so I am a little afraid. Being afraid is not a bad thing. The man laughed. One must have a heart of fear. However, being afraid without being afraid is the true meaning of cultivation. If you are not confident, don't fight with Fong Ping easily. I understand. Then you can leave the mountain tomorrow. The man said. Soon, a seal, a set of armor, and a spear appeared in his hand. "This is a gift from me to you. Sage order, lock the void. Spirit sage armor, protect the flesh. God-slaying spear, destroy the strong enemy. When you leave tomorrow, bring the 8 mountain-guarding divine beasts with you." "Master," Yunmia said hurriedly, "I can leave the island by myself. With the mountain-guarding divine beasts around, I will lose the chance to train." The man smiled faintly. "They will not attack unless your life is in danger. Remember, the so-called reliance is on yourself. If you don't think about it, you will strengthen yourself instead of blindly escaping from it. That is training." "I understand." After replying, Yun Mia took the 3 saint weapons and said happily, "Master, now that disciple has left the mountain, can I introduce myself?" The man smiled faintly. "It is fine. The sky-sealing bloodline has not appeared in the world for a long time. Not many people know about it. In this era of great competition, annihilation, come out of seclusion and fight for the heaven-sealing bloodline. Take it as making the heaven-sealing bloodline famous. I will remember this. I will not let the sky-sealing bloodline's reputation be tarnished." Yun Mia was looking forward to it. The man stopped teaching and laughed. He looked at the bamboo basket and said, "Help me kill the fish." Yes, killing the fish wasn't that simple. Yun Mia reached into the bamboo basket with one hand. In the next moment, the small golden fish in the bamboo basket suddenly opened its mouth and bit at his hand. Yun Mia harumphed and slammed his palm forward, causing sparks to fly. At that moment, the tail of the golden fish suddenly expanded countless times and swept over like a dragon's tail. A loud rumble rang out. A bloody gash appeared on Yun Mia's finger. Yun Mia seemed to be enraged. He sneaked a glance at the man and felt embarrassed that he had to go through so much trouble to kill a fish. "Seal." At that moment, Yun Mia harumphed coldly. The air trembled as a gate that seemed to have come from the ancient times descended from the sky. There was a loud boom. The gate fell into the bamboo basket and entered the golden fish's body. The initially powerful fish's aura suddenly dropped by more than half. At that moment, Yun Mia harumphed and grabbed the fish with a single hand. The golden fish cried out in pain under his grip. Soon, a human voice could be heard. "Lord, spare me!" As if he didn't hear it, Yun Mia's sharp fingernail instantly slid across the fish's abdomen. Riot! The fish's intestines were cut open, revealing its translucent organs. A crystal bottle appeared in Yun Mia's other hand, and he poured out a large amount of liquid to wash the fish's organs. Then a thin knife appeared in his hand, and he started to scrape off the fish's scales. The golden scales fell off, and the fish let out a shrill cry. Yun Mia glanced at the man who was looking at him silently. He released his mental energy again and sealed the fish completely, silencing it. The man continued to watch as Yun Mia dealt with the spirit dragonfish as if he didn't see it. It wasn't until annihilation scraped the scales off the fish, rinsed its internal organs over and over again, and was about to extinguish its vital energy that the man smiled and said, "There's no need to kill it. Fish, you have to eat something fresh. Only when it's alive will it taste good in the pot." The spirit dragonfish is only a little more common now. In ancient times, even I would have a hard time eating one. Zhang Xin sighed. Yun Mia knew the story behind it. In ancient times, this fish was so delicious that it was almost eaten by a cat. No one would be able to eat it. If anyone caught this fish and didn't give it to the cat, the spirit emperor would come knocking on their door. The man sighed and said, "In the past, when we destroyed the Heaven Palace, any brother who caught a spirit dragonfish had to give it to that cat. Now things have changed. That cat isn't as domineering as it used to be." Yun Mia smiled as he dealt with the spirit dragonfish. "Master, that cat is only at the emperor level now." The man waved his hand lightly. "Don't provoke that cat. That cat is unusual. Although it's only at the emperor level, the sky-sealing lineage might not be able to seal its great Tao. In the past, Even the 9 emperors couldn't seal its great Tao. Emperor level. It's an emperor level. You might not be its match. Moreover, the cat's strength isn't just in strength. Remember, if you meet it, try to avoid it. Disciple understands. Don't call it by its name. A cat is a cat. If you don't mention its name, it can't do anything to you. Disciple understands. The man nodded and smiled. Don't mention it. Someone will deal with this cat. The Chu Wu lineage hasn't been completely wiped out. Killing the cat failed in the ancient times, but it might not be the case now. Killing the cat, Yunmia looked at the man who said indifferently, it'll happen sooner or later. Of course, if someone kills it, someone else will protect it. Let's see if this cat can be destroyed, and if it'll affect the Daos of the origin after it's destroyed. We don't know yet, but some people might not be willing to gamble. Master, if the cat dies, will our source of the great Tao really be shaken? The man pondered for a moment, then smiled. Not necessarily. Some people are just bluffing. Heaven extermination. Dharch once said that if the great Tao is strong enough and sturdy enough, the cat's death won't affect anything. Some people who only look impressive might have their great Tao shattered. If those people die, then so be it. Yunmia understood and didn't worry about this anymore. Clearly, he felt that his great Tao was sturdy and wouldn't be affected. The master and disciple started to cook the spirit dragonfish. A spirit dragonfish in the desperation realm. The desperation Fae with its origin sealed was just ordinary. It wasn't a match for the master and disciple. Soon, the smell of fish came from the island. Some of the Fae hissed in a low voice, then quickly calmed down. At the same time, in the Forbidden Ocean, in a heavenly realm fragment, deep within the heavenly realm fragment, there were cracks in the void. Some dilapidated palaces were swaying, as if they would collapse at any moment. Outside a relatively intact palace, a person stood, holding a saber in his hand and carrying a longbow on his back. He looked at the dilapidated palace with an indifferent expression. Wang Jinyang. Wang Jinyang had been missing since he left the Nanjiang catacombs. There was a plaque hanging on the top of the palace in front. It was also dilapidated. Tyrant, Wang Jinyang glanced at the plaque and seemed to recognize it. He said softly, "The Palace of Heaven, Tyrant Dharch? I don't think so. It's built by his successor." As he spoke, he shook his head and said with a smile, "Does he have a successor?" After teaching a few people, he left behind a cultivation technique and disappeared. Disciples will have to search the entire 3 realms to find him. Rather than looking for him in the Heaven Tyrant Palace, they might as well go to the Heaven Destroyer Palace. If the disciples of Heaven Tyrant Dharch wanted to find this master, they would have to try their luck at the Heaven Destroyer Palace, because Heaven Destroyer Palace was frequented by Heaven Destroyer Palace. As for his own Heaven Destroyer Palace, they might not even visit it once in 100 years. It was also in a hurry. As he spoke, Wang Jinyang stepped in. In the dilapidated palace, there was almost nothing left. Wang Jinyang did not care and looked around for a while. Soon he saw the dilapidated but domineering statue in the center of the palace. It was arrogant. The figure of the statue was dressed in armor. It held its head high and raised its fist as if it was showing off. Wang Jinyang looked for a while and smiled. He took a step forward and suddenly reached out his hand to pat the head of the statue. He said with a smile, "Heaven Tyrant, let me borrow the power of your jade bone." As he spoke, he punched the head of the statue. The flesh on his hand instantly exploded, revealing the white bones. It was a terrifying sight. Wang Jinyang did not seem to see it. At this moment, the head of the statue was smashed by him, revealing a jade-colored long thread inside. Wang Jinyang reached out and grabbed the long thread. The long thread struggled. It was extremely sharp, instantly cutting the bones in his hand and making a cracking sound. "You're already dead. Do you think you can defeat me with just a strand of hair?" Wang Jinyang laughed. "Your head is so hard. Don't tell me it's because you plucked out all your hair? How many people did you give your hair to?" That's enough." Having said that, he could not help but talk to himself. He laughed. "I shouldn't have tricked Feng Qing back then. Tricking you to pluck out all your hair is probably not a problem." As his voice fell, he let out a low roar. His vitality surged and forcefully captured the jade-colored long hair. Then his vitality wrapped around the hair, as if he was extracting something. In an instant, an incomparably surging force erupted from the top of his head. Wang Jinyang gritted his teeth and forcefully absorbed this force into his body. Bang! His flesh exploded. Wang Jinyang ignored it and continued to absorb this force. Wrong side. Extreme Tao. Extreme Tao. Extreme Tao. That's someone else's Tao. In his mind there seemed to be an invisible voice. Wang Jinyang was calm and collected. He said slowly, "I'll walk my Tao. There's no need to point fingers at someone who's already dead." The voice dissipated. There was no more sound. Chapter 1171. In the dilapidated hall, Wang Jinyang's body shone. Broken, mended, broken, mended. Soon, the strand of hair was completely shattered. Wang Jinyang exhaled softly, his face slightly pale. He was different from others. Others had golden bones after rank 8, but he had never forged golden bones. However, his white bones were also glowing jade. They were not jade bones, but they were not weaker than golden bones. Vitality path! Wang Jinyang chuckled after sensing his qi and blood. Extreme Tao. The reason why Extreme Tao was called Extreme Tao was because the other Taos were difficult to walk. Hence, he gave up on the other Taos and focused on one Tao. Was Extreme Tao the correct path? If so, why did the Extreme Path Heavenly Emperor not become an emperor? "Zhan, are you really dead?" Wang Jinyang murmured softly, but no one answered. Soon, Wang Jinyang smiled and said, "Actually, I hope that you're not dead. If that's the case, you will be you and I will be me. And I am not someone you can entrust yourself to." Still silence. Wang Jinyang did not care. He exhaled softly and walked out of the hall. Looking at the shattered void, he murmured, "Maybe I should go deeper. It would be better if I can find some of the heaven-exterminating emperor's remains." It was dangerous to go deeper. The deeper one went, the more likely it was to encounter great terror. There might even be some monsters in the early stage of martial arts in the depths of the Forbidden Sea. Those monsters were isolated from the world and might not have cultivated the origin path. They were more similar to the early stage of martial arts. Not only that, there was great terror in the depths. Celestial Cemetery, Wang Jinyang murmured. The Celestial Cemetery was in the depths of the Forbidden Sea. Countless powerhouses died in the core area of the Great War. It was a place of boundless danger. There were even emperors lingering on their last breaths. Heavenly Hound and the others went there. He did not know what the situation was like now. Wang Jinyang thought about it and laughed. That was fine. If Heavenly Hound and the others went, even if they could not do anything, they could still cause chaos in the Celestial Cemetery for a while and prevent it from affecting the 3 realms. Otherwise, if someone walked out of the Celestial Cemetery at this stage, the 3 realms would be in chaos and the humans would suffer. He stepped out of the Celestial Realm fragment. After losing the statue and the hair of the Celestial Monarch, it was as if the world had lost the last bit of energy supporting it. With a loud boom, the void exploded and the pocket dimension disappeared completely. Wang Jinyang didn't even turn his head. It was hard to tell if he was feeling a little sad. This was the place left behind by one of the few disciples of Emperor Batian. Back then, many of the disciples of other emperors had recovered. But how many of the disciples of the 4 emperors had recovered? He might really die. After all, the 4 emperors were different from the monarchs. Some of them even walked the path of the initial martial lineage. Without source energy, how could they recover? If he died, then he would really die. After flying for a distance in the sea, Wang Jinyang suddenly turned around and said softly, "Earth is depending on you. I'm afraid I won't be back for a long time. You can hold on. Earth was much more powerful than before. Many, many more. However, Wang Jinyang knew that this was only the beginning. At this juncture, the people who should appear were about to appear. This time, it was more dangerous than any other time. Those who were alive, those who were dead, heavenly kings, saints, beginner martial artists, without exception, they would all appear one by one. Earth, the center of the storm. When the last passageway opened, it would also be the most dangerous time for Earth. It would be completely exposed to the eyes of the powerhouses of the three realms. The land that had completely lost its barrier might be surrounded by powerful enemies. He must strive to rush back before that day. Join the war. Participate in the war of defense. Participate in the war of the human race's rise and fall. Wang Jinyang left these words, and his figure quickly disappeared on the spot. It was time to go. The catacombs. Outland. Fang Ping restrained his aura and appeared in the outland again. On Mount Royal Sea, Fang Ping stood alone, looking at the catacombs, looking at the new heaven and earth that seemed to have a thin membrane between heaven and earth. For a moment he was a little dazed. Looking back, looking at the outland, looking at those human cities. Fang Ping was getting more and more lonely. Old Zhang and the others were not here. This Mount Royal Sea only had him. At this moment he was too lonely. Where were the people who had fought side by side with him in the past? They were all gone. Now, only he could stand here and defend this endless line of defense of humans. I will wait for you guys to come back. Fang Ping murmured softly. How can I defend this long line of defense alone? How can I fight in all directions alone? Come back quickly. Lonely. There was no one to fight side by side with me. At this moment, there was suddenly an extra aura behind him. Fang Ping did not even turn his head, saying lightly, Go. Seeing that you have helped the human race a few times, I won't kill you. Behind him, an incomparably cold youth, whose appearance was somewhat similar to unquestionable swords, looked at Fang Ping's back, speechless for a long time. After standing there for an unknown amount of time, his voice was cold, his tone complicated. You are really not the Demon Emperor. I am not. Fang Ping smiled and said, I am Fang Ping, unique. The Demon Emperor. Is the Demon Emperor very strong? You are not Master. This person was not a human, but a demon, the Demon Swordsman. In Mount Royal Sea, the Demon Overlord, the top rank, 9 powerhouse, the Demon Swordsman. Now it had taken form. This was the symbol of a pinnacle. Ranked in the top 10 of rank 9, it was now also a pinnacle Taoist. It led the millions of demons in Mount Royal Sea, forming its own territory, living in Mount Royal Sea, forming its own lineage. That day, that person, is he master? The cold youth was like an abandoned child, a little expectant, a little sad. Fang Ping lied to it. He was not the Demon Emperor, not the master. However, the person who fought side by side with the king that day, it felt vaguely familiar. Was it Master? Fang Ping turned around, smiled, and said, Maybe. You are not stupid. You have proven you're Taoist. You should understand some things. Since you are here today, let me ask you, if one day I become his enemy, will you help him or help me? The Demon Swordsman looked at him. After a while, said in a low voice, Master helped me achieve Tao. If Master has an order, this little demon will definitely die. Stupid guy. Fang Ping laughed, waved his hand, and said, Get lost. I will not clash with your master for the time being. If it really comes to that, I will spare you once. I will not kill you. In this world, there are not many people who can still keep their hearts. There are many people who are foolishly loyal. But you are a demon. Maybe it will be different. As he said that, he added, Bring the demons under your command. Leave Mount Royal Sea as soon as possible. This place will soon become the battlefield of the 2 realms. A third force, although you have proven your Tao, can a mere paragon rival the powerhouses of the 2 realms? The Demon Swordsman was silent. After a moment of silence, said, This little demon has already contacted everywhere. Maybe they will build another forbidden land in the sea. Mount Royal Sea demons. Although not a match for all sides, they will not be bullied by all sides. The idea is good, the result may be sad. Demons. Fong Ping smiled and said, the demons of this era may not have much space to survive unless the bloodline of the Beast Emperor shows their strength. After saying that, Fong Ping did not care anymore, continued to patrol along Mount Royal Sea. In the current Imperial Sea Mountain, he was the only one who could patrol everywhere without fear. Even Wu Quishan could not, he who had just entered the Paragon. Fong Ping was still worried that he would be surrounded and killed in Mount Royal Sea. Behind, the demon swordsman did not follow anymore, watching Fong Ping leave. Its gaze was also incomparably complicated. Although it was deceived by Fong Ping a few times, it did not hate, only felt that it was a pity. It was a pity that the King of Man was not the master. This boundlessly domineering King of Man killed strong enemies in all directions, suppressed the human world alone. The human world rose because of him. Such a person, if the master, how good would that be? Mount Royal Sea. Fong Ping continued to walk. Very soon, a bounded domain covered by a large formation appeared. In the next moment, a figure appeared. Xianhua, the powerhouse from the Xuande Grotto Heaven, when he first came out of the mountain, vowed to find Fong Ping to spar, to make Fong Ping pay the price, who asked Fong Ping to empty the Xuande Grotto Heaven. In the battle of the King's battleground, the Xuande Emperor Xinji also made a move. He made a move for the human race. Because of this, although the Xuande Grotto Heaven strength was not considered strong, it still existed at this moment, dominating a part of the Outland because of the human race's support. Fong, King of Man. Xian Hua was getting older. In the past, many people on the rank 9 wind and cloud list had achieved Dao, but he had not. When he first met Fong Ping was still only rank 8 strength. Now, Fong Ping had killed a saint, but he was still only rank 9 strength. He could no longer be like before, mentioning that kid Fong Ping the moment he opened his mouth. Senior Xianhua. Fong Ping laughed. Xianhua hurriedly said, Senior, you flatter me. King of Man, are you patrolling Mount Royal Sea? Yes. Fong Ping laughed. It's fine here, with the Xuande Grotto Heaven guarding. It's not a problem. A few days ago, the catacombs rebuilt the heavenly court. It wasn't too much of an impact here, was it? Xianhua immediately said. It wasn't affected much, but Xianhua hesitated, but still said, but the catacombs sent an emissary here, wanting to confer the Xuande Grotto Heaven. He stamped the Heavenly King order, requesting the Xuande Grotto Heaven to join the heavenly court. What do you think, Senior? Fong Ping was not angry, smiling. Senior, don't worry. Venerable Emperor Xian Ji fought for the human race before. This is friendship. Now it's time to make a choice. After all, the catacombs have 9 saints. I can understand Senior's choice. The Xuande Grotto Heaven actually still had a true god guarding it. However, he did not sense this true god's aura today. Fong Ping did not know where he went, nor did he ask. Xianhua exhaled softly, saying quickly, Naturally, I'm still leaning towards the human race, including the sect leader. But now, the human race in the catacombs, after all, is inferior to the catacombs. If I reject now, I'm worried that the catacombs will retaliate. What I mean is, don't express your stance, don't reject. King of Humans, please understand. Fong Ping nodded slightly. I can understand. Actually, in the last battle, Senior Xian Qi did not fight, I already guessed it. In that battle, Wu Quishan and the others fought with the catacombs' powerhouses. Actually, the human race still had help. The people from the Xuande Grotto Heaven, the true god of Dragon Change Sky, these 2 forces, their venerable emperors had participated in the battle that day. But this time, the powerhouses from both sides did not fight. Fong Ping could understand, but he was more or less disappointed. They could not stand firmly on the human race's side. Of course, in that situation, 2 true gods could not change anything. They were afraid that after the human race was destroyed, they would also be defeated, directly annihilated. This was actually understandable. Fang Ping's current mentality was much better than before. If it was before, perhaps he would be dissatisfied. Now he understood a little more. The human race's situation was unclear. How would they dare to pick a side easily? It was not easy to pass down their legacy for so many years. A little carelessness and annihilation would happen overnight. After Fang Ping finished speaking, he smiled. "Senior, don't worry too much. This is good too. Then I'll continue patrolling the various territories, Senior." There was more politeness and less intimacy. Xian Hua felt it. Actually, before this, Fang Ping still had a very different view of the Xuanda grotto heaven. He was here, Venerable Emperor Xian Ji taught him the golden body honing method, solving old man Li's big problem. Fang Ping also took away a lot of treasures. He even let a few monsters in, causing a lot of trouble for the Xuanda grotto heaven. Among the territories, Fang Ping was the closest to this side. Moreover, Xuanda grotto heaven was also the birthplace of the Chun family. The Chun family, one clan with 2 paragons, fighting to the death for humans. This was all different. Watching Fang Ping continue to walk on Mount Royal Sea, watching his figure gradually getting further away, Xian Hua's expression was conflicted, suddenly shouting in a low voice, "Wait, human king!" Fang Ping turned back. Xian Hua's expression changed again, suddenly saying, "In the world of great competition, how can we not fight? Great changes, great chaos. The most taboo is to be at both ends. The strength of the Xuanda grotto heaven is not strong. The sect leader is not here, but before the sect leader left, since he chose the human race, today is no exception." As soon as he finished speaking, Xian Hua's voice was loud, saying loudly, "Taibai Mountain Xuanda grotto heaven is willing to guard the southern territory for the human race forever." As soon as these words came out, the grotto heaven was instantly stirred. The catacombs emissary came to confer the title of Xuanda grotto heaven. In order to smooth things over, the true god in charge chose to go far away, dragging the catacombs, unwilling to give an answer. On the human side, no one came, nor did they say anything about Xuanda grotto heaven. However, at this moment, Xian Hua, a non-true god powerhouse, represented the Xuanda grotto heaven and gave an answer. This senior rank 9 at this moment, his aura exploded, his aura like a rainbow. After saying that it was not enough, he shouted again, "Taibai Mountain Xuanda grotto heaven is willing to guard the southern territory for the human race forever." His voice echoed in all directions. Above the heavenly palace, the Xuanda grotto heaven, people walked out one after another. Some were old and some were young. Some were worried, some were fired up. Some wanted to say something, but stopped. Some were relaxed. This time, Xian Hua made a decision, made a choice, and clarified the ownership of the Xuanda grotto heaven. However, in this way, when the war started again, the Xuanda grotto heaven would be seen as a human force. Maybe they would be the first to be destroyed in the great chaos. They were in the outer territory. They did not have a top-notch powerhouse in charge, unlike the Wangu bloodline, which had the North Emperor bloodline powerhouses to suppress everywhere. They were also unlike the Weiyu Mountain bloodline. Weiyu Mountain did not have a clear attitude, and now Weiyu Mountain's Jiang Kuei had also proven to be a paragon. In addition to the previous paragon powerhouse Jiang Su, one sect had 2 paragons. In a situation where they did not express their stance, they still had some confidence. Moreover, before Venerable Emperor Qingtong left, he also revealed a suspected saint-level strength. In this way, the Xuanda grotto heaven was the weakest, but it was the first to make a choice, very easily becoming the target of all parties. Below, a young martial artist gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "Let's do it. At most, we'll fight. Right now, we're so aggrieved, afraid of offending this and that." From afar, Fang Ping looked at the rank 9 who was getting older, suddenly laughed and said, "Don't you want to discuss with Senior Xuanqi?" Xian Hua's aura flourished, saying loudly, "No need. Senior brother is not here. The Xuanda grotto heaven's old Taoist has the final say. The Xuanda grotto heaven is not strong, but they are willing to fight." Having said that, he shouted again, "Don't worry, king. If the catacombs emissaries come again, the Xuan Grotto Heaven will chop off their heads and send them to the human world." Fang Ping laughed, looking at him, saying slowly, "If that's the case, the human race is also willing to join hands with the Xuan Grotto Heaven. From today onwards, the Xuan Grotto Heaven will be the human race's first grotto heaven." Fang Ping's voice was loud, his aura also erupted, his voice reverberating in all directions. The Xuan Grotto Heaven will be the human race's first grotto heaven. If Venerable Emperor Xuanji returns, he will be conferred the title again. As soon as he said that, several mentalities extended over in a continuous manner. There were powerhouses from the catacombs, powerhouses from Weiyu Mountain and Wangwu Mountain. Today, the Xuan Grotto Heaven, under the decision of a rank 9, had made a choice. Join hands with the human race. No one spoke. They were all observing quietly. Xian Hua, the rank 9 martial artist, straightened his back at this moment. Over there seemed to be another aura spreading from the sea, a little anxious, a little panicked. Xuan Grotto Heaven's only true god powerhouse, Xian Qi. This veteran paragon did not expect that after he said he would not get involved, his junior brother would make a choice after he left. From today onwards, the Xuan Grotto Heaven would probably be dragged into the quagmire of war. However, at this moment, he was already helpless. Xian Hua informed the 3 realms that the king had made a promise. At this moment, if he dared to say that he was going back on his words, that would completely offend the human race. He was extremely helpless. Perhaps only this powerhouse himself knew how sullen he felt in his heart. Fang Ping continued his journey, not staying long at the Xuan Grotto Heaven. However, at this moment, Fang Ping no longer hid his aura, releasing his aura, continuing to patrol along the Imperial Sea Mountain. Very soon, he passed by Weiyu Mountain. At Weiyu Mountain, 2 paragon powerhouses soared into the sky. They did not speak, nor did they say anything about joining hands. Weiyu Mountain did not express its stance easily. Fang Ping nodded, slightly. The 2 paragon powerhouses bowed and gestured. Fang Ping left in a flash. Jiang Kuei glanced at the direction he left, looked at his uncle Jiang Su, and said with a complicated tone, "Uncle, are you really not going to choose?" Jiang Su said in a low voice, "Now the catacombs have 9 saints. In the human world, only Fang Ping can fight a saint. As for the others, they might not always join hands with Fang Ping. If they express their stance easily, Weiyu Mountain will be in danger. Before the sect master returns, we can't easily drag Weiyu Mountain into the mire." Jiang Kuei sighed, "But if Fang Ping overpowers the 3 realms and joins hands with the human race, it might be our chance." "No rush," Jiang Su said softly. "Now, actually it might not be the beginning. When those powerhouses in the fake sky cemetery return, that will be the time for all parties to reshuffle. Before that, the human race is also at its most precarious time, full of uncertainty. At that time, when the sect master returns, with the sect master's strength and wisdom, I think the sect master will have a good choice." Jiang Kuei did not say anything else. He only hoped that the sect master, who was his family's elder ancestor, would have a good choice. Although the human race might not be as strong as the other forces, Jiang Kuei and Fang Ping had interacted many times, and vaguely felt that they should choose the human race. Although the catacombs was extremely powerful now, with 9 saints suppressing the 3 realms, Fang Ping's strength improved rapidly. Who could guarantee that the catacombs would always be stronger than the human race? On this day, Fang Ping patrolled the Mount Royal Sea defense line. They passed by Wangwu Mountain. Although the Wangwu lineage did not express their stance, Sage Yuwei's participation in the battle already meant something. Fang Ping crossed the southern territory, entering another foreign territory for the first time. First, it was the western region. The experts guarding the Western region and the 27 Western regions went to Imperial Sea Mountain to accompany the sovereign personage in patrolling the area. Wu Jue Ho was holding down the fort. However, there were many rank 9 martial artists. Every time Fong Ping arrived at a territory, there would be powerhouses coming to greet him and accompany him on patrol. None of the powerhouses from the catacombs in the outer territory dared to show up and stop them. After patrolling the West region, Fong Ping entered the North region very quickly. Experts from the Northern Domain, Hall of Gods, and other holy lands also made their way to Mount Royal Sea. The might of a sovereign personage started spreading throughout the outer regions, the entire human race. Wherever they went, the catacombs' powerhouses retreated. For a moment, Fong Ping was in the limelight. 3 days. After spending 3 whole days, Fong Ping had finally patrolled the entire Mount Royal Sea defense line in the outskirts. Along the way, a saint's mentality descended and was forcefully shattered by Fong Ping. Fong Ping did not care which saint it was. Those who dared to probe, without exception, all of their mentality were shattered. It was incomparably domineering, but no saint showed up. After Fong Ping finished patrolling the outer regions, it had also quietly entered May. Exactly 2 months had passed since the opening of the fake sky grave. At the same time, in the Forbidden Sea, Boundless Mountain, where the Dong Huang bloodline was located, the saint-level powerhouses under Dong Huang leaped into the air, looking at extermination outside of Boundless Mountain. They frowned slightly, their expressions somewhat solemn. Someone from the extreme Dao bloodline. Extermination laughed. Not really. I'm from the Feng Tian bloodline. The Feng Tian bloodline. The old saint frowned again. After a while, he said, the ancient Feng Tian bloodline. Are you from the extreme Dao bloodline or the beginner bloodline? His mentality was very strong. He was not weaker than him. This kind of powerhouse was either from the extreme Dao bloodline or a powerhouse from the beginner bloodline who walked the path of spiritual consciousness. He must be related to them. Extermination laughed. The Feng Tian bloodline has been passed down for 8,000 years. It does not originate from ancient times. After saying that, he looked at Luoyu, who had just leaped into the air. He looked at his golden body and shook his head slightly. Weaker than I expected. Luoyu. 3,000 years ago, he was a prodigy from the overseas immortal islands. Now he has only become a true god. He was slightly disappointed. Luoyu did not give him the feeling that he was too strong. Of course, he was still a rank 9 golden body after advancing from rank 8 to rank 9. After that, he had honed to rank 9, becoming a true god with a rank 9 body. His strength was stronger than the average true god. His physique was also very strong. However, that depended on who he was compared to. Extermination had long become an emperor level. His mentality was comparable to that of a saint. Naturally, he felt that Luoyu was weak. Luoyu frowned and looked at him, not saying a word. I'll give you time. Extermination laughed. The current you is still not strong enough. I hope you can catch up, otherwise, you won't have a chance in this life. Luoyu's aura exploded, his eyes cold. Are you provoking me? I'm not provoking you. Extermination said mildly, the prodigies of this era are not like that. You are still lacking. The old saint from Emperor Donghuang's faction looked around with a deep look in his eyes. After a while he said mildly, sky-sealing progeny, I might know where you came from. However, Emperor Donghuang's faction is not afraid of any force. Extermination bowed slightly. Senior, you're not the one I chose. If you want to fight, my master will come out. The old man's expression changed slightly. Then he snorted coldly. His eyes were sharp, but he suddenly calmed down. You came out this time to fight the prodigies of this era? That's right. The old man laughed as if he was looking at a dead man. He said mildly, Then I wish you a safe journey. Fong Ping has just patrolled Mount Imperial Sea. If you want to find him, you can go to the outer domain and kill some humans. Extermination laughed. I have heard of Fong Renwang's reputation. Although Fong Renwang is my target, I want to fight the human's longevity sword first. I'm just afraid I'll be disappointed again if I'm not strong enough. The old man smiled and didn't say anything else. He said lightly, "Then you can go on your own." As he said that, he ignored him and landed directly. Longevity sword. Was he trying to accumulate momentum slowly? That depended on whether Fong Ping agreed to it or not. The 8 monsters were very strong. Among them, 3 were emperor level and 5 were top-tier true gods. The difference between emperor level and saints was not as big as imagined. 8 monsters were probably enough to fight top-tier saints. This person was also very strong. This group of people had combat strength comparable to 2 saints. But so what? He hoped this fellow could return alive. He should pray for him. The saints under Emperor Donghuang's faction were now watching a show. The Sky Sealing Bloodline. That fellow from back then. The old man seemed to remember something. He was a little fearful and contemptuous. Very strong. Indeed, very strong. Even in that era, when the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors were still around, that fellow was terrifyingly strong. He was known as the leader of the Extreme Path bloodline. It was the Extreme Path bloodline, not the Extermination bloodline. However, some people were worthy of respect. Some people were not. Jean had been apprenticed to many people. So was that person. He was very similar to Jean. However, Jean had his own path and his own integrity. That person was lacking a little. Now he had formed his own bloodline. Was he going to complete something that had never been done in ancient times? This bloodline is strong enough. How will Fong Ping deal with it? The old man muttered to himself. Perhaps it would be beyond his expectations.